Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting for Monday, November 4th, 2024. We will begin with a roll call and determination of quorum. As soon as IT chimes in, our recorder, because I can't do it from here. Do we just need mine?
Lehman, Maher, Roberts, Stroman, Pettigrew, Sechrist, Bieberdorf, Ham, Evans, Roseland. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we'll begin with an invocation from Pastor Randy Brock, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able and willing, would you please rise?
Let us pray. Father in heaven, we call upon your name today, Lord. We rejoice in this day you've given to us. I pray, Lord God, that you would guide every part of this meeting, Lord. We love our democracy. God, you've given us a great gift. I pray we'd never take it for granted. And I pray, God, today, Lord Jesus, that your truth will ring out, Lord Jesus, and your decisions would be righteous. And that, Lord God, everyone, Lord God, with something to say or something to celebrate, I pray, Lord God, you'd bring blessing upon them. And we put everything in the hands of God, whose will always be done on this earth, just as it is in heaven. God, bless this proceeding in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to
The flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we'll have a motion to adopt the agenda. Second by Sechrist, or motion by Sechrist, second by Roseland. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Starting up here today, because we have some awards and recognition that we would like to hand out tonight. And the first, I would ask the Rapid City Fire Department Challenge Team to come and join me up here, please. So this is pretty cool. As they're coming up here, we have 5 firefighters. Come on up here in the bullpen, folks, who competed in the National Firefighter Challenge Team competition in Nashville, Tennessee in October. The Rapid City team competed against the best firefighters in the world from all over the nation and 20 foreign countries in skills-based challenge courses. The men's team took 8th place overall. Well done. 2 of our firefighter competitors made it to the final day of action. One of our firefighters, Morgan Helton, set a new Division II under 40 female record with a record time. Very proud. Record time of 2 minutes, 35.73 seconds. The world record held for only one day, as most records happen. They're all bound to be broken. But Morgan can say she's a world record holder and finished second in the overall women under 40. Morgan, we're so proud of you. Thank you very much. And also another member of the Rapid City team, Bryce Carty, came away with Rookie of the Year honors. So well done. So I'm going to announce their names. Danny Sandvig, do you want to raise your hand there? Danny. Morgan Helton, Bryce Carty, Mitch Cove, and Marshall Keefe. Well done, each and every one of you. We're very proud of you. Now, this isn't like winning your big award, but I'm going to give you a challenge coin from the city as a token of, our recognition of all you've done. Thank you for your incredible service to the city as well. So. All right. Those are true firefighters right there. All right, well done. Thank you very much. Next up, I would like to invite the St. Thomas More tennis team up here with Coach Chris Grant. Come on up here if you're... We're working our way. Got a traffic jam, but we'll be okay. I'm going to share a few remarks, and I'm going to pass it over to Coach Grant. Hi, ladies. Well, tonight we're recognizing the great work of the St. Thomas More girls tennis team, which won the state tennis title last month, which is pretty awesome. Well done. The Cavaliers finished runner-up in 2022 and 2023, and this team remains focused on the big prize and put it all together this year to collect the state title by edging out Sioux Falls Christian for the state A title, which they're holding right there. Doesn't that feel good? Isn't that awesome? Hopefully, Coach, I'm not stealing your thunder here, but the Cavaliers won 3 singles championships and doubles titles as part of the state competition held right here at the new Sioux Park Tennis Complex. We're very proud of that tennis complex, which also won rave reviews among visiting teams and fans. And this is the first state tennis title since 2015. How cool is that? So to introduce these young ladies and offer his remarks, we have Coach Christopher Grant. Coach.
Well, he pretty much said everything I was going to say, so this won't take long. No, you're okay. All right. First of all, our coaching staff, Stephanie Strand, Celeste Ramos, I know will agree with me that we were blessed to have such a wonderful group of girls to work with this year. I'll introduce them momentarily. They loved, supported, and encouraged each other all season. They exemplified sportsmanship, integrity, tenacity. It's tough to win a state championship, and they represented our school very, very well. St. Thomas More could not be more proud of them. Every player contributed. Special recognition to seniors Athena Franciliso and Shreya Gonganeni. Raise your hands, ladies. There's our flights 1 and 2 players, team captains this year, and they won a critical doubles final to help us clinch the victory in the tournament. Also want to give special recognition to co-captain Emily Strand. Emily, raise your hand. Flight 3 individual singles champion, Evie Renicky. Raise your hand, Evie. Flight 4 singles championship, Victor. And Ellia Strand, Flight 5 singles champion. Ellie's achievement is also unique due to the fact she is merely in the 7th grade, and this is her first year playing varsity tennis. She's now the, youngest athlete in St. Thomas More school history to win an individual state title. Finally, special recognition goes to our Flight 6 athlete, Abigail Oakes, earned 2nd place in doubles, 6th place in singles, in her first year as well as a varsity player. So congratulations, girls. We're so proud of you. We also want to recognize Rapid City Stevens girls. They won the AA. I know they couldn't be here tonight. And I want to give a shout out to Rapid City Christian, another local team, competed well all season. They were tough for us, but we got a West River sweep from Stevens and our team, and it was all done at the newly renovated Sioux Park Tennis Complex. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your vision in renovating that facility, and what a way to inaugurate that. And thank you for having us here tonight. Very good? All right. Very good.
Just like with the firefighters, we have a gift for you. We'll do this for the Stevens team at an upcoming council meeting. Also, a special thank you to Greg Stroming for help to arrange this as well. So I'm going to give you each a challenge going for your job well done as well, okay? So here you go. Should we get a picture real quick? Next, we'll have a presentation from the Rapid City Sports Commission, and then we'll have the public comment right after that. Thank you. So I believe D'Amico Rodriguez, go ahead and get up here, D'Amico. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. All right. Well, thank you, councilmen and women, for the opportunity to come and update you on the first year of the Sports Commission. As many of you know, the City Council has been a supporter of the Sports Commission since its inception and was a proponent for all of the projects that we're going to outline here. I also want to give a big thank you to Dave Dolan, who is also an employee of the Sports Commission, as well as Greg Stroman, who is our liaison. And thank you for everybody one more time. So the first year highlights, the big one was purchasing some additional equipment to better highlight city and Parks and Rec facilities. One of the biggest purchases was the portable fencing and portable mounds and portable bases. So many of you know, Star of the West softball complex, 8 fields, is a crown jewel for Rapid City. And it's great because its flexibility and size allowed the Sports Commission to use the portable fencing to turn a adult slow pitch complex into a girls fast pitch complex, as well as a youth baseball facility this summer. We hosted a couple of different tournaments, but the flexibility and size of that complex really showed really well this summer with several tournaments. Some of those tournaments are a brand new event, the Rushmore Shootout Baseball Tournament, and also one of the largest softball tournaments in the state, the Mount Rushmore Classic in June, as well as the Native American World Series in August. Again, the portable fencing was used to showcase the women's division of that tournament as well. Some other events that we worked on over the past year, the Mountain West Junior Premier League Soccer Tournament, that was a first-year event that happened in May. Again, a time that's not the busiest for tourism in the area, so our hotels were very glad that we were able to get that, and that's a 3-year commitment. Also at the soccer complex, which also is a shining light for Rapid City and sports. Also, I mentioned the Rushmore Shootout Baseball Tournament. This is the largest youth baseball tournament that Rapid City has hosted, and it was the first year, and we're looking to grow that moving forward. Also, the South Dakota Class A Baseball 16U State Tournament that was in August. And then we also created a free throw competition, which was free for competitors that wanted to show their prowess on the basketball court at the Central States Fairgrounds. Again, a free event, more PR and goodwill for attendees of the fair. Also, some highlights. If you haven't bought tickets yet, next Thursday, South Dakota State University is playing Northern Colorado next Thursday at the Summit Arena. We also secured a Nationals for USA BMX. It's called the Rushmore Nationals for June of next year. And if you have never been out to the newly renovated USA BMX track on the south side of town in Robbinsdale Park, it is awesome. If you ever get a chance, next year we'll have Rapid City athletes in the BMX space be able to compete at home in a national championships for the first time ever, as well as the national championships for tumbling and trampoline. About 1,200 athletes will be coming to Rapid City for a 6-day event in June, which will be hosted in the Summit Arena. The last time we hosted this event was in 2015, and it was in the old Barnett Arena. So this group is extremely excited to showcase one of Rapid City's best facilities in the Summit Arena. Again, a project that City Council has been so graciously awarded the citizens of Rapid City. And I think the big piece is not only are we booking additional events, hotels are getting additional business, but the big one is $300 million in economic impact into our community. As we're talking about some positive things of the community, sports are a very positive thing. Not only does it bring additional economic impact into the community, but it offers an opportunity for our athletes to participate in competitions at home. And for those of you that are travel parents for sports, being able to sleep in your own bed and not spend the money to travel is a huge piece to the puzzle. So thank you for that. And I guess my final piece is, if we were to look at our crystal ball for the Sports Commission, and some of the things that we'd be looking at in the near future would be an investment or an assessment of our outdoor rec facilities. Obviously, one thing that differs us from Sioux Falls is our terrain, the biking, the outdoor lifestyle that we can offer to people coming into town. So we're going to continue to take a look at that and how we can improve it and invest in it. Additionally, alternative funding solutions. More of that you guys will hear plenty about over the next couple of weeks. Trying to create some sustainability for the Sports Commission, not on the taxpayer's dime, not additional funds from the City Council. So that will be coming in the future as well. And the final piece is continued facility enhancements for locals to use. And I know Mayor Solomon made a comment about Sioux Park. That is an awesome facility. This group and your predecessors really saw the vision. We've been able to reap the benefits of that by kids being able to train at Sioux Park and then host great events like the state tennis tournament. So that's just a quick update for the City Council and the staff of the city. But most importantly, we want to say thank you for your support. We're very big partners with Parks and Rec, Jeff and his team. And as we look forward to the next year, the upcoming months with Vision Fund and all the things, our youth is something that we need to invest in. Please keep that in mind. We appreciate everything that you've done up to this point. And again, thank you all for your time. Today's going to be a long one, but we appreciate you and your effort. Any questions? I'd gladly take some.
Thank you, D'Amico. We appreciate your presentation, and I'm sure the council, you always be in touch with the council members offline, I'm sure. So thank you. Next, we will move on to general public comment. This is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council, excuse me, on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda, except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. I do have a number of speaker request forms for general public comment. We also have a number for item number 35 later on. So we will do general public comment first. The first guest is the Oglala Sioux Tribe president is here with us tonight. Frank Starr comes out. So would you please welcome the president to the podium? And Mr. President, you have 3 minutes, and I know you're busy, so that probably works out pretty well. Following President Starr comes out will be Gabriella DeMarce, or DeMarcy. I hope I pronounced that correct. Just
Okay. Matakiapi. Council, Mayor Solomon, Mopila, for having me tonight and giving me a chance to speak, the honor to speak to you very briefly. The reason I'm here today is I have some concerns with communication amongst the tribes and the city of Rapid City. First of all, again, let me introduce myself. My name is Frank Starr comes out. I am the current president of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. I'm also the chairman of the Great Plains region, which is 16 tribes in South Dakota and the surrounding states. So I represent a lot of people and tribes. And just for the record, the Oglala Sioux tribe has its own government. We have a structure just like yours. We have transportation, education, things like that. We have land committees, all those resources that you have. We have 65 programs that are controlled by the president of the Oglala Sioux tribe. We are the largest tribe in South Dakota. And today, I'm here because of some concerns that have been going on with the tribes and within the city of Rapid City. Not only Rapid City, I'm going to say the state of South Dakota. And we need to address the issues in Indian country and the citizens of South Dakota. You know, we're here to stay, and we're survivors. So today, I just want to address the council here that it's time to start communicating. It's time to start coming to the table. There was an incident that happened, and the word got out, and we, the tribes, were not informed. I believe it was miscommunication. But I was able to correct that today and get to the bottom of it. So in the future, I would like the tribes to have a seat at the table when it comes to interacting with the tribes. We do have major events here in Rapid City. We have L&I. We have a major powwow that goes on here. And we bring a lot of money to the city. We are taxpayers. We are citizens of South Dakota. Even though we are federally recognized tribes, you still use our membership in account for South Dakota. So I believe it's time to talk. It's time to come together. Throughout my administration, I stressed unity among tribes. And then within our leadership. And I like to start doing that with the city of Rapid City. We need to come together. We need to sit down. We have issues that we need to resolve. And it all starts with communicating. So that's what I want to address tonight. And I hope you hear me out. And I'm looking forward to more meetings. Not only with the council, but with the mayor, the police force. We need to bring our issues together. We need to work as one. Some of our issues are not being addressed. And it's time to get them addressed. So thank you. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Mr. President. All right. Ms. Gabriella, followed by Jamie Geed. Jamie, I always get your last name. Geed, I believe, is correct.
All right. Hello, council members. My name is Gabby DeMars. I'm a resident here in Rapid City, and I've lived here for most of my life. Both my parents, two grandmas, my grandpa, my aunt, and uncle all live here. I was confirmed at Canyon Lake Methodist Church when I was 14. I graduated from Stevens High School playing varsity soccer while maintaining a 3.8 GPA. I became a Division I athlete at a school in Montana and have both a bachelor's and a master's degree at 25. I have always grown up with a roof over my head, food on the table, money to pay for basic needs, and more. I come from privilege, and I imagine many of you sitting in your council chairs have and still do. It feels safe to assume most of you sitting in front of me have relatives, kids, or even yourselves who share commonalities with my life experiences. The commonalities of benefiting from white privilege every day, of benefiting from living on the stolen land of Lakota people, from the generational wealth generated through extraction of resources and people over centuries, from the ability to insulate yourself from adversity and the struggle of others different from you, from being of the proper race, class, culture, and gender that our current policies serve, of being able to decide that a bolted fence blocking off a critical shelter in the middle of town is the right thing to do because it will never affect your comfort or mine. The difference between us lies in our connection and commitment to our community, or lack thereof. This council's ongoing policy decisions and inability to accessibly, transparently, and inclusively communicate those decisions with the public, I believe, is a strong reflection of your lack of true connection to the community at large. Only by building authentic relationships with a diversity of people across this community and actively listening can someone of our privileged position start to truly understand how deeply harmful and oppressive the issues that people right here in our community face in Rapid City, better known as Mini-Luzahan in Lakota. Our community can only thrive when those who are most vulnerable to and impacted by systemic issues are at the table. I feel that this current council has an obligation as public servants to acknowledge and compensate for your lack of understanding about the lived experiences in Rapid City of being unhoused, being Black or brown, being queer, being low income, etc. I hope you consider my comment as a call in rather than a call out. It is uncomfortable and necessary work to be in community with people, and so I emphasize to each of you that it is never too late to become leaders that fight for our fundamental rights as human beings: food, water, shelter, space, and many other essential resources that a lot of people don't have. I know that being an elected official can be a tough job, but the sooner you put your boots on the ground in support of the communities that struggle the most, people like myself will only make your job harder because we relentlessly care about other human beings. Please join us at the band shell this Friday at 4 to serve food with us and ask
Time's
the
up.
community how the new fence will impact them this winter.
Okay,
Thank you for listening.
Jamie, followed by Renee Hegland. Folks, we would ask to not do that. We are in a council meeting, please. Thank you. Jamie, are you here? Okay. So Renee Hegland. Followed by Eric Claiborne.
We meet again, Mayor. Council members, I spoke to a few of you over the weekend, and it is regard to the fence, or as I was referring to it as the cage that was erected around the band shell at Memorial Park. I want to acknowledge Mayor Solomon's press conference today where he stated that communication was not done effectively, and I'm using my own words, not his, but basically it was a my bad. And I think it speaks to what his commitment could be to us by admitting that, and so I thank you for that. And like the previous speaker, I can't wait to see you this Friday. I've helped feed community members in various locations here in Rapid City. And last winter, you might have seen me on TV quite a bit asking for help to provide food and housing for unsheltered. I'm very grateful that I was born into a family that held in reverence volunteering in the community. My mother was a volunteer at a nursing home, and I just grew up being a volunteer, and that was normal to me. My son was born in Belfouche, South Dakota, and that hospital was connected to a nursing home. And when we were discharged from the hospital, when he was a mere 12 hours old, I just walked across the hall and introduced this new great-grandbaby to all of his new great-grandmas and great-grandpas. Some were red, some were brown, some were black, some were white. But I raised my son to know that these people were elders and they deserved our respect and that they had something to offer, even a little blonde tow-headed boy. And so with that, and I know that it's general comments right now, but I'm going to use part of my time to talk about my support for respite care. I just recently got out of the hospital. There's no way, if I didn't have a home to go to, that I would have been able to finish my journey towards health. And so I support it. And I'm more than willing to sit and talk to anybody about it, and how important it is that the folks who are criminalized for being poor, how much they need the continued care and support of respite care. My name is Renee Hageland. I live on West Boulevard, on that big, tall blue house. You can knock on my door anytime you want, and I'll be happy to talk to you about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Eric Claiborne, followed by Dustin Eaglebull.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I believe many of you may already know my thoughts about the fence around the band shell. And I'm glad, Mayor, that you addressed the lack of coordination in the situation. And I appreciate your acknowledgement of the oversight. I like to live by the principle of don't attribute to malice what can be attributed to incompetence. I have faith in our Parks Department. I've met many of those individuals through my work with trails and mountain biking in the area. And I don't think any of this or anyone acting is acting with bad intentions here. But I appreciate your response and your willingness to address those issues openly. I also want to clarify that it's important for me to not speak for people who didn't ask me to speak for them. So I'll do my best not to. I'm speaking as a community member who chose to retire here after being warmly welcomed by the people of Rapid City in 2016. I did 21 years in the Air Force, but only after being given a second chance in my youth by a sheriff's deputy in Colorado Springs. I have a GED with a jail address on it, but I also have 2 college degrees, own a home here, and contribute well over the average in tax revenue to the city. You know, I decided to retire here because I see opportunity here to create positive change that can really, I think, lighten one of our biggest historical stains in our country. I view that as opportunity. And one thing I've learned through my own experience is the importance of trust. My wife says I trust too easily, but I found that leading with trust and goodwill allows me to build relationships with people I may not have otherwise connected with. I have friends from all walks of life, from police officers here in Rapid, to business owners, to folks that are currently homeless. None of these labels define who we are. It's how we treat each other and what we do with the resources that we do have that truly matters. Yet our instincts tell us to judge quickly. It's a survival mechanism to recognize patterns that have hurt us before. And I think that's what people resonated with my recent video. There's a pattern here, and while it may not be malicious, it's led to a lack of trust. A pattern of limited dialogue, transparency, and reduced services for our most vulnerable fortifies doubt and erodes trust within the community. Earlier today, Ms. Chasing Hawk read a list of grievances. Those are patterns. I appreciate the steps you've taken so far since addressing this, waiving the fees for the volunteers at the band shell, and making the space available on Fridays and responding promptly. These are positive actions, and I thank you for them. I'd also like to thank Journey On, the Circle, and all the volunteers that work every day to make our community better and safer. However, going forward, I think there's more we need to address, and I'll save my comments as I'm out of time, but I'll speak again on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Dustin Eaglebull, followed by Kristen Strissel.
Good evening, Mayor. Good to see you, Lance. The rest of you, I don't think I've ever met, but offer a warm handshake. I actually watched your presentation on Facebook today, Mayor, and it's thrown me off. And I don't understand where our homeless people are supposed to go to even use a restroom. And earlier you said that the restrooms are no longer being used because there's fecal matter and there's stuff being seen there, but there's the restrooms at the same time. And I'm wondering, as a question, is we pay for with our taxes for those restrooms, and we're gonna contract out for porta potties. How much is that gonna cost us as citizens? And how many jobs is that taking away, not actually hiring somebody to clean those restrooms?
I'll address all this at the end of public comment. How about that?
Thank you.
Okay. Kristen Strissel, followed by Paula Zavitz. Please forgive me if I've mispronounced everybody's names. You can correct me if you want.
No worries. It took me a long time to figure out how to pronounce it too. My name is Kristen Strissel, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I've called Rapid City my home since before I could actually form words. It's been something and a place that I have loved since 1986 when my family moved out here, and it's where my heart is. One of the things that's really challenging is when you love something, but you also want to be able to stretch it to its best potential and know what it's capable of. What I want to talk to you about today is the increasingly limited view that we have of who the public is and who the citizens are in Rapid City, at least as I feel it as a citizen, and what accountability we have as a civic structure to recognize and respect and provide services to all people, especially given that this land is native land. The problem does have a larger civic quality. I think a lot of the time we talk about it as if it's about individual charities and things like that. But we work on things like roads and public works and water and all of these important services. But services to all people is something that we need to consider deeply. I am massively concerned by the large amount of architecture that it goes against the unhoused that I'm seeing in the community over these last years. Signage, things like barriers to prevent people from gaining refuge. I deeply believe that we are so much more than that as a town, as a community. And I think we need to have a thoughtful conversation about where that belongs, because I don't think that it belongs here. I'd like to share 2 brief examples, because I'm a story person. It took me a long time to realize that this was native land, even growing up here, and what my role in the community should be to learn and understand. In 2021, on New Year's Eve, there was bitter, bitter cold, and Wyatt Church opened up its doors, and I saw an experience of grace and humanity that was the kind of leadership that I would want to see everywhere. I learned a lot from the people who ran it and how they ran it. And even last January, in the exceedingly bitter cold, I saw the Oyate Emergency Shelter set up through good people in our community who were leading. This is the kind of leadership that I value. This is the kind of thing that I want to see, and I believe that this town continues to be capable of. And so, again, I would just deeply pose that question to each of us. In this world, especially with Election Day being tomorrow, there's a lot that we can't control, but Rapid City is within our scope. We can make it the place that merges its native present and its native history and its native wisdom with the way that we collectively govern this place. And I have faith. I really, really do. And I thank you.
Thank you. Adria Adams, followed by Valeria Big Eagle. Or excuse me, Paula Zavitz. I'm sorry, Paula. Then,
That's okay.
But I guess we
I remember.
We remember the next 2 people are on the list. There you go. All right.
My name is Paula Zavitz. I'm in Ward 3. Mr. Mayor, your Christian faith is well known. And I also have said out loud in public that I intend to follow Jesus. And the thing about that is that once you say that, then other people can look and listen to the things that I say and I do, and they can make their own judgment about whether or not I'm doing what I said that I wanted to do. So when I heard the title of the event that you headlined, "This City Belongs to Jesus," it seemed ironic to me in light of some of the decisions that the City Council has made recently, in particular allowing the Hope Center to close and most recently barricading the band shelter. And also a disinterest in figuring out where our unhoused citizens are going to stay now that winter is approaching again. The Bible story that came to my mind was the one that's in Matthew 25. The Son of Man returns in glory, and he sits, and the nations come to him, and he begins to separate them out, one from another. And some to the kingdom of heaven, and some to the outer darkness. And the criteria that he uses is how they have treated him. And everybody's confused. All of them don't know what he's talking about. When did we see you? And that's when he says the famous words, whatever you did to the least of these, you did to me. So I understand that to mean that the people, the person that we are driving from our community is Jesus. Jesus himself is the one that we refuse to care for or acknowledge among us. So here's the good news. It's never too late. It's never too late to repent and change the things that we're doing. So this is what I want. I want the city council to acknowledge that this is a complicated problem. It's founded on injustice that is 500 years in the making. We are not going to figure it out tonight or even next week. But there is a small group of people in our community that are trying
Yes,
to
ma'am,
make our community
I got it, but we have a
like
lot of
the
people to get
kingdom
to.
of heaven.
Shut off her mic, please. Adria Adams. Sorry, ma'am, you have 3 minutes. I'm trying to respect everybody's time here. Followed by Valeria Big Eagle.
Good evening. I am not prepared for this, but I'm very passionate about the subject at hand. It's not only the band shell, but I have a business in town. I've had it for 25 years. I have fed people from homeless at Christmas at the shelter, at different churches. I pay for it from my own pocket. I have had my children help me every Christmas so that they know how fortunate they are, because I didn't grow up very fortunate. So I understand how it is for someone to have a job and not able to get food and housing easily. I have friends that are homeless. I was recently told by the city a couple months ago that they would shut my business down. I have a catering business if I continue to feed them. It was actually safer with them around. They cleaned up after themselves. Before that, we would have broken windows, graffiti, a lot of problems, a lot of theft. I'm right on Mount Rushmore Road, and these people looked out for my family and I. It's a family-ran business. And so the city, I don't know if that's something that's they are threatening several people with, shutting people that work really hard down. I have fed people like General Cotton, ex-presidents, probably some of your family. I am one of the most popular caterers in town. I am at beautiful venues, and one of my favorite places to cater is the homeless shelter, because they are so grateful. And I am wondering, aside from the band shelter, that is a big issue, they're also going to you're closing Safe Bed. That's where the homeless people go. They have to be there by 9 p.m. They have to find somewhere to go all day because there's nowhere to go, since the Hope Center is closed now. And that's going to be taken away from them now as well. So I'm just wondering, there's also bus tickets, that one-way tickets out of town, that people have to sign a contract. So they are going out of town and they cannot come back. And I have seen those, and they've told me about those. And I know there's a lot of crime, but I feel like we should address this issue and try to help them, because they are human and they are people. And I have one story that I'm very passionate about. I have several, because I get to know these people as people. And during COVID, there was a family. It was a mom and a daughter and a gentleman. The gentleman worked at Murphy's. He got fired. The mom had to go to the hospital. She got so sick, became wheelchair bound. The daughter had 2 kids. They got taken away because they were homeless. Now, because they were homeless, she has a backpack with a knife and an
Miss
open
Adams,
container.
I'm sorry, but your time is up.
But she's looking at 27 years. It's not common.
Valeria Big Eagle, followed by Tony Diamond.
Before you start my time, I will be stepping in for Dr. Val. My name is Taylor Gunhammer. I'm a local organizer with Indian Collective. So hello, Council. Hello, Mayor. I missed you at Indigenous Peoples Day. Again, very charming. Well, so here we go. Oh, 1 second. You didn't start my time, did you?
You started once you started talking, sir.
Okay. So, Rapid City leadership's recent decision to force Native relatives to sign for a one-way bus ticket agreement and to fence off the bandshell is nothing short of an attack on our people's dignity. This is more than just denying access to resources. It's a profound disregard for the long history of suffering our people have endured. A history that includes the boarding schools, which tore apart Native families and left lasting trauma across generations. Today, many of our unhoused relatives are direct results of that era, carrying the scars of a brutal system that tried to erase our culture and break our spirits. The United States government has only recently begun to acknowledge the horrors inflicted in those boarding schools. Generations of Native children were stolen from their homes, stripped of their language and identities, subjected to abuse, and in many cases never returned to their families. That trauma didn't end when the last boarding school closed. It's still alive in our communities today, especially among those who have struggled to find stability, support, and healing. Many of our unhoused relatives are survivors or descendants of those who survived or didn't survive boarding schools. They are people who deserve our compassion, our support, and our commitment to healing. And yet here we are, just days into Native American Heritage Month, watching our city leaders treat these relatives not with understanding, but with exile. This is not just a one-time failure of leadership. It's a continuation of the very same policies of removal and exclusion that our ancestors faced. It's as if the city is saying that our people still do not belong here, that they can still be pushed aside, and that their pain and history can still be ignored. When we launched the Rapid City versus Racism campaign, we didn't do it to divide this city or draw lines between us and them. We did it because we believed the Rapid City could rise above its past and confront the racism, both blatant and systemic, that affects all of us. We saw an opportunity to stand together as a community, to acknowledge the ongoing impacts of these injustices, and to work toward a future where all people are valued. We didn't expect that those standing on the other side of this call for unity would include our own mayor and city leaders. It's not surprising, but it is profoundly disappointing. But I still have faith in this city that we can heal, grow, and create solutions. I believe that Rapid City can move forward, but only if our leaders are willing to look beyond their own egos, pride, and the voices in their ears that encourage division. And lastly, can I get a Lily on treaty land, please?
Next up, Tony Diamond, followed by Oliver Hassey.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you for your time. My name is Tony Diamond. I'm the Black Hills Center for Quality President. I want to speak in regards to what I've heard several people speak on. And what I would say is we do need more transparency. We need more openness. And in hearing everything what people are saying, I would ask the City Council and the members here to look at how can we bridge this divide? How can we work together? You know, I was here earlier today, and I mentioned this. I think that I would love to see how we can maybe form a panel, maybe amongst citizens, inviting members that are from each different organization, each community, from the LGBTQ community, from the indigenous community, from the veterans, from each area, and that we can have these people that help bring about transparency and that these people can meet and speak for the people along with the city council and yourself. And that way, you know, it's building that bridge, building that gap, helping to bring about unity amongst our city, you know, because we have a beautiful city, and that as we move forward, you know, we need to close this gap of division. Right now, it feels like it's us against them and these people against this people, and it's, you know, we're only going to continue to grow here in Rapid City, and as we continue to grow, let's not have this division grow. Let's close this division. Let's get it to be so we don't have titles. Let's get it so that we see each other as human beings. So how can we work towards making that happen? How can we look at each other instead of seeing different colors of skin, different economic classes, different sides of the city, the north side, the south side, the east side, the west side? How can we look at each other as just straight human beings? And just, I would love to be able to sit down with you and with other members of our community and devise and come up together with something like that. And as you know, because I'm tired of living in a city where I don't feel safe. As a transgender woman living in the city, I don't want to live in a place that I don't feel safe. And I know there's other people here in the city that don't feel safe. And my time is about to run out, so I'm willing to sit down with you and other members of our community to find a way to make this a safer place for everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, Oliver Hassey, followed by Rex Haig.
It's their phone. Mr. Mayor, Council, City employees, citizens. My name is Oliver Hassey. I'm a retired Lieutenant Colonel, former VA business manager with over 20 years of leadership and leadership instructional experience. I'm currently a teacher and the husband of the former Assistant Public Works Director. I would like to congratulate the city on the departure of their former Public Works Director. As the Public Works Director, Mr. Tech used a lack of communication as a weapon to instill fear in Public Works, talk down to members of this board and citizens to terminate my wife, a former military officer. Kristen worked for 2 years and 9 months to implement change with maintenance programs, applying best practices, holding people accountable with regular evaluations and counseling, asked for policies that are not present, consolidate personnel to gain efficiency and cost savings, improve promotion opportunities, and implement safety programs. While she was working on operations, Mr. Tech also looked the other way while bullying occurred to her or others. She was terminated 1 month after she verbally complained to Mr. Tech. Just ask Mr. Titus. She often discussed this with him. Mr. Tech was clearly comfortable with not knowing much in this city and creating a toxic culture. After Kristen's termination, the director also attempted to have his executive assistant promoted to the Assistant Public Works Director position, while this person had no superintendent experience and no required educational experience. Mr. Tech is responsible for many of the operational shortcomings of the city, such as the Streets Division facility that he allowed to fall in disrepair, no safety program, no vehicle maintenance program, and he would blame others for his leadership failures. Mr. Tech also failed to develop a succession plan, so no one in Public Works is prepared to be the interim, let alone the future director. I personally believe this was by design, so he could not be replaced. Those who could fill the role were fired. Choosing finance and community development to manage Public Works in the interim is a wise choice. The stress Mr. Tech has placed on my family and others in Public Works is great. If my wife's termination were warranted, I would not be standing here in front of you. However, the termination of a former Army aviation major who received guidance to implement change and received glowing evaluations and was then terminated with no verbal or written counseling prior is irreprehensible and indicative of the toxic environment Mr. Tech fostered. Now it's time for change. Kristen wanted to work in her hometown and apply lessons learned. She wanted to work for the hardworking employees of operations. Now it is your opportunity to improve public works and improve that culture to help our
Mr.
city.
Haase, your time's up. Thank you. Rex Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'll try to be brief. I know you got a long schedule here. I've been in Rapid for 40 years. 35 of that have been at 1721 West Boulevard, where I still currently reside. I know that the mayor and the council have appointed a committee to deal with the vacation rental issue, and I'm not here to debate that issue tonight. We'll plan to work through the process in the system and give input at that time. My concern now is I'm not sure if that directive also accompanied a directive to not enforce blatant violations going on while that process is going on. There's, in the neighborhood, and I won't get personal about it, but I try to know my neighbors. Having lived there that long and raised my children and going to Wilson School and other places, I try to know my neighbors over a 2-3 block period personally, and I've been wonderfully lucky with the quality of people that I've lived around. And at this time, you know, I know that these places are now all over Rapid City, and but I urge you to take a look at enforcing what you have now for blatant violations. And I'm talking about commercial uses of property, you know, on the boulevard that aren't contemplated, I don't think, by what you intend to do with the ordinance one way or another. You know, holding family reunions, having soccer teams, celebrations of life, all occupy the property with a lot of violations with noise, and some of my other neighbors are here. And we've tried to work through the system, and we'll continue to do that, work through the system, complaining, having it addressed, but for certain people it does no good. And so we need a bigger push for enforcement for blatant violations while we sort out the rest of it. So I just would ask you to keep that in mind, to hopefully not shut down any enforcement during this period of time where you're trying to develop this ordinance. It's having its effect, and you know, the zoning laws are there for a purpose, and they're usually not to protect one person, but protect the neighborhood or the community around it. And that's why we have zoning laws, and they've been around forever. And I think if the city wants to progress, we need to use those zoning laws to enforce this, especially on the blatant cases, and so that we can move forward and do this in a constructive way. So that's my simple request, is for you to hopefully enforce these blatant cases and then sort out the rest as it comes along through the process. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the general public comment time. I do want to respond to the major concerns that we had with regards to the band shell. A few things. I mentioned this in a press conference today, but I just think for everybody's sake, I would share it here today. We did, due to persistent safety and health concerns, we did say we were going to secure the band shell when it is not in use. And what I acknowledge is that the panels went up and then no communication went out, and that was inappropriate. We should have had a communication plan in place before and during the panels going up, and coordinated with groups that may be affected. And so with that, the city will work to do a better job with that. And I'm disappointed, and we did drop the ball there. And so when folks said that, I acknowledge that, that's what I said. But so why would we work on securing the band shell when it's not in use? Well, I did have city employees come and share some information with me. I had the Parks Department tell me that multiple times a week they had the need to clean up from use, bodily fluids, blood, fecal matter, vandalism, camping, and such. The police department provided data to me that in 2023 and 2024, we had a total of 777 calls for service. Includes assaults, intoxication, and those sorts of items. EMS, our emergency management system, which is part of our fire department. They had 134 calls for service, which included assaults, medical attention, intoxication issues, people drinking themselves to death. And unfortunately, we had all of these issues going on in addition to people basically using it as a restroom and multiple times a week. And obviously you do not want to feed people or people are using the restroom. And it was an issue, an ongoing issue. So I did, in hearing from that, I said, well, let's explore options to secure the band shell when it's not in use. That was something that happened, and we went down that road. We have what I hope is a temporary situation with the fence, but I would prefer a retractable or something along those lines that we can lock and open in case. Now, here's the issue that was raised was that we did this to prevent people from feeding those in need. That is incorrect. I can see how that assumption is made, but it's wrong. The city isn't preventing groups from sharing meals with those in needs. In fact, I mean, last week we didn't take any meals out of anybody's hands. The band shell itself, the stage was blocked, but folks were still welcome to share a meal with those in need. The issue wasn't the weekly meals, it's what's happening between the meals that were the issue. So groups looking to serve those in need are welcome to work with the Parks Department, who will provide side access to the band shell. It won't remove the fence, but on the sides there are gates that they can open up to provide that if they need covered shelter during that time. And I have told the Parks Department we'll waive the permit fee for those providing meals to those in need during this season, but I'd ask that you schedule with the Parks Department so that we don't have conflicting items and events going on at the same time. So obviously we can address all the issues with homelessness is a big topic, and due to time commitments, we won't deal with it here. We have a respite care conversation to have later, but I thought it was important to share that the reason it is because we care. We care enough to say we don't want you to eat necessarily where the feces are, so we need to keep people from using that. Now we have restrooms that are available. We have porta potty already that's been in existence by Roosevelt. We have a ability to use a restroom at West Memorial Park near the bocce ball courts, and we have Founders Park as well. These are tough situations, folks. If you could see what our folks have to clean up every day, it's awful. I mean, obviously we don't want that for people. We don't want people to be sleeping outside. We want better for them. And it's not because we don't care, it's actually because we do care. And so I thought it was important to address that. Yes, we could have done a better job communicating in advance, and there's lessons learned, and we're working to address that internally. But rest assured, it's due to safety and sanitary issues there that we had to block it off when it's not in use. And so obviously it's a band shell. It's meant to be used, play music and that sort of thing. Band shell's not really a great shelter either. Encourage the use of existing services, and we appreciate everybody that's providing that. The government won't be the solution to all that problems. A lot of folks, many of you, support organizations that are doing great work. But I will tell you, the city invests millions of dollars out of its annual budget to serve those in need in crisis services. Whether it's Cornerstone, whether it's Mobile Medic, Quality of Life Unit, the Care Campus, Journey On, Case Management for Volunteers of America, Case Management with Great Plains Tribal Health, Wavy, Lifeways, these are all things that the city supports. So this narrative that we do not support the city or do not support those in need is incorrect. So with that, we are going to move on with our items, move on to another public hearing, items 4 through 35. I'm sorry, public comment is over. We will open public comment for items 4 through 30. And I do not have any speaker request forms for those items, so we will close those public comments and move on to consent items 4 through 30. Would the council wish to remove any item for separate consideration or vote on the remaining ballots? Got a motion by Sechrist and a second by Maher to approve items 4 through 30. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to non-consent items 31 through 35, and we will open public comment for these items. We do have a number of speaker request forms. My question to the council, by council rules, they are allowed to take a topic and either have 10 minutes per side of the issue be addressed, or we can just have everybody do their 3 minutes per item. And so I'm looking for council direction on how they wish to handle this. We would need a motion to do that. I said I move. Okay. You move? I move Can I get you on the microphone, Ms. Seacrest? Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I motion that we allow 10 minutes per side, just given the amount of public comment that's been heard in the Planning Commission and
Okay. Well, if you have an item for 35, sir, you can speak to a specific item, to item 35, if you turn in your speaker request form. Did we have a second to that? Okay. No second, so we'll go to Kevin Maher.
Yeah, I just think that all these folks have come here tonight. They've been here for an hour, hour and a half. I think we ought to let each person have their 3 minutes if they'd like to speak.
Well, that's the default, so you don't have to make a motion. I was just looking for a motion if we were going to change the rules, which you are allowed to do. But it sounds like the council wishes to hear from everyone. So we will just go down the list for item 35. We will begin with Shawnee Early. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. I'm going on handwriting. As a reminder, we ask that you keep it to 3 minutes. As you can tell, I'm going to be pretty strict on that. So one of the best things you can do is say something that someone else didn't say before. Of course, Ms. Early, you're going to be first, so it doesn't matter. But we hope to get through everyone as quickly as we can. There you go.
Well, I will try to be brief. My name is Shawnee Early. I am actually a primary care provider at the VA, so I think I have a little bit of an interesting perspective. I do home-based primary care, so I actually go into veterans' homes and see them versus them coming to the clinic for various reasons, whether that's disability, mental health, transportation. And so as far as this respite home is concerned, we do have particular programs in the VA that could potentially assist people if homeless people were in a facility like this long enough to find them, essentially, when they're relocated places or they're discharged from the hospital. It's very difficult for these programs to actually get in touch with these people for long enough to set up veteran services or for them to find more permanent housing or different situations. We have similar screening criteria to what they are proposing, actually less so, and we're going into homes individually and have never had a safety issue. So I really don't have much more to say on that other than I am in support of the respite program.
Thank you. Next, we have Marin Gall. I hope I pronounced that correctly. That'll be followed by Don Nielsen. Marin or Marin, G-A-U-L, last name. And we have some folks in the other overflow room, so we might take a minute to have them come in here. And that'll be followed once again by Don Nielsen. I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
That's okay. I'm Marin Gall.
All right.
I wanted to say that I think our whole neighborhood is in support of a respite care place, but we do not feel that this is the right place to be. That area with the roads has no easy way to walk around without being at risk of being hit by a car even. When you look at respite care centers, you think about these might be some people that want to leave against medical advice. And if you've ever taken care of people like that, they want to walk off and often might want to go back to finding alcohol or drugs. And how are they going to get that as well? Sometimes that leads to stealing or needing to get resources and get there the fastest they possibly can. And this doesn't really feel like a safe place for them as well. If they were to walk to the nearest area to get things like that, they would be going across our version of a highway here. I feel that there must be places in town that are better for this. Better buildings set up with more funds, perhaps through other city organizations that already have relationships with these types of people, or in areas closer to the other resources that they use, which may be the hospital, which may be other services. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Nielsen, followed by Martin Tarek.
Good evening, members of the council, Mr. Mayor, fellow citizens, good to see you. My name is Don Nielsen, and I am an emergency physician here in town where I've practiced for 12 years. I also sit on the Medical Staff Quality Review Committee at Monument Health, and I am the lone representative for the state of South Dakota at the National Council of the American College of Emergency Physicians. This proposed medical facility raises significant safety concerns to me. While I was at the National Council, which met at the end of September, I did kind of query multiple people regarding a medical respite center so I could get opinions from across the nation. Essentially, what I learned is that a medical respite facility in a smaller neighborhood is at a 28-bed size is uncommon. I couldn't find a single person who had one of similar size. In a residential neighborhood, typically medical respite facilities are going to be less than 10 beds because they are houses, and that's how that works. They are typically totally secured. In Bellingham, Washington, which is a community of 93,000 people, they recently had to have a 2.5 block protection zone at their medical respite facility because people would come and prey on these people. People who are dealing drugs. And so this was a protection not for the community, but for the people there. This facility is wholly inappropriate for this. There are these single entrances of all these facilities, at these facilities, and the people that go there, there are many homeless people that I treat every day that are very nice, great people. There are some with addiction. There are very complex patients. The people with addiction, if they do end up receiving drugs, I'm concerned that in that isolated space that they will overdose and they won't be found. And time in overdose is everything. And when that happens, they will die. My other concern is obviously safety of them leaving. There are multiple studies that say that in between 14 and 50%, this is according to the National Medical Respite Care website, between 14 and 50% of the patients will leave against medical advice or AWOL. And when they do that, they will go onto Tower Road, which has no sidewalks or shoulder, and be potentially struck by a vehicle, or they will naturally cross the highway and go down Enchantment.
Right.
I'm sorry, just one more thing.
Actually,
I
sir,
urge you to
I
heed
gotta
the
get
wisdom
Mr.
of
Tarek.
your state-mandated planning commission
Sir.
and deny the
Mr. Tarek, followed by Stephen Tomei.
Mayor and members of the council, my name is Martin Tarek. I live on Sandstone Lane over there, right off of Tower Road. And first of all, I would like to just say that I would request that the council respect the decision made by the Planning Commission. They have the expertise. They have scrubbed the statute. And my experience as a CPA, and also I deal a lot with taxes, is that every word in the statute has meaning. So don't skim it. They looked at the, I'll say, the health, which was really never addressed in, I'll say, open public comment. Fire codes were, and some of the building inspections were as well. But I would ask that you respect their decision. In preparation of this meeting, my wife and I went around and looked at the other homes, group homes, that Cornerstone, I guess, handles or manages. And one of the things that we noticed is they fit very well into the surrounding neighborhoods, and none of them had any type of exterior fencing or perimeter barriers of any sort. Now, I do know that Cornerstone, as part of this process, has suggested to put in monitoring systems, but I do question, what do you do with the results of the monitoring? If you have a lot of security systems there and you have one staff person, what kind of action can be taken? But I guess the question that I would have is, what is the purpose of the security perimeter, if you will? Is it to keep us out or to keep those individuals in? The things that kind of trouble me, if you will, because Rosa and my wife and a couple other families, we're the trash police, if you will, in that area. So we go up Tower, Skyline, Pevins in the area. We've been doing this, we've been living here since 2017. We pick up all kind of paraphernalia, which I will not put on record. But I will just say this, when there's a comment made here about the 2020 use of the facility, since that time, we've noticed an increase in alcoholic containers. There's been just more traffic up in that area. And what our concern is that it's going to be not the individuals or the patients in the respite facility, it is the magnet or the attraction of others, just like you were talking about downtown this afternoon or today. That is the concern when several times in the documentation, patients can leave. It's like, okay, where are you going to go? Well, Marty and Rosa live down the street. And as it was previously mentioned, the things that we see, I'll say, are predecessors of criminal activity. So I'm running out of time, but I would ask you, last thing is, I would ask that...
Sir, time's up.
Go visit and see what you think.
All right, Stephen Tamang, followed by Mark Millar.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Tamang, and I've had the privilege of working on this project since its inception. And I'd like to first just talk about the building and the location. And just to give you some reference, there's about 150 medical respite sites throughout the country. This building and this location are excellent by comparison. They would be the envy of many of these programs. They exceed the standards for medical respite. The second point I want to make is this council, previous councils, and many city leaders have done a wonderful job putting together some infrastructure. Mayor, you mentioned some of them already. Cornerstone is amazing for emergency shelter. You have Pivot Point that does behavioral health interventions. Of course, you have Safe Bed, Detox, One Heart, Journey On. Love Journey On. Medical respite is something that is critically needed, and it adds a degree of synergy, which the speaker from the VA mentioned. It'll add a degree of synergy that we have not seen before, and it'll greatly enrich all of the groups. It'll take heat off a lot of them. The final point I want to make is between Monument Health, the South Dakota Department of Health, and Cornerstone, this is a very large relative initial budget for this kind of work, and it doesn't cost the city a penny, but it does add to the infrastructure, and it is sustainable for a long period of time. And look, there is no way a city our size can take an issue like homelessness on. It needs groups to step up and to form coalitions and to bring about solutions. You have this. And what the council needs to do, and people around, they need to support it when they see it. This is a solid plan. I got involved in this in 2022. That's when the email started. I've had 100+ meetings. I've pitched this dozens of times. I've read every white paper, every policy and procedure I can get my hands on. There's a group, we have consulted with the National Institute for Medical Respite Care, which one of my previous colleagues mentioned. We have a budget item for $10,000 for them to come and review our policies. We've taken this as seriously as you possibly can. And one thing I'm concerned about, I'm concerned that the number of additional concessions that are being demanded on this project beyond what I think Vicki Fisher and Jessica Olson did a very good job meeting a number of the concerns. I'm concerned that this council is going to demand more of this project. It's going to make it less efficient, and it's going to increase the risk of failure. So I would encourage you to take a look at what this is. This is an organically driven project by very responsible people that has been extremely well thought out. It doesn't cost you a cent. You should support it so we can go about doing the work that the city desperately needs us to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mark Millar, followed by Gabrielle Morganfield.
Good evening, council. I know you're probably all afraid to see me show up here. I tend to show up and chew your butt. And you need it. You doubled our budget in the last 4 years. You took a lot of one-time monies, you handed them out in reoccurring costs, and our city is headed into a serious problem. I expect most of you will be checking out on that as it's convenient and you realize what you've done. The former mayor here was quite fond of telling us we needed to harden as citizens against what's going on with this city and take care of ourselves. He suggested that businesses get their own security. I don't know of anybody in this community that's probably more vetted at being proper at doing these things than Cornerstone Mission and Monument Health. I'll have to apologize to the folks that live up on that hill that are not going to like what I say next, but a lot of them shoehorned their homes into property that was a commercial corridor. They got great views. Some of them homes up there, their property line's literally boundary on two streets, or two highways, excuse me. Now, I don't know how you would have bought that property not realizing that you were going to be affected by the public. I live right in the middle of town. I've owned my home for 20-some years. I got a 25-foot setback from my sidewalk to my front door. That's never going to change. Those people up on that hill, they have a substantial value in their properties. They have substantial sized lots. I don't see a lot of people. I drove up there myself. That's how I know that at least 3 of those properties butt up to right-of-ways. So I guess part of my question is, if that hotel was in code for short-term occupation or whatever, why does the mission even have to get your permission? Are they not doing the same thing? Are they not offering short-term alternative for people to live? I'd just like to add one more thing. In the last 4 years, I've had 10 surgeries. I live alone, but I own my property, and that's been a great benefit to me that I could get help from my friends so I could be released from my procedures. Anything that you do to stand in the way of people's medical issues is wrong.
All right. Mr. Millard, thank you. Gabrielle Morgan, oh, please no, Gabrielle Morganfield, followed by Brian Hendricks.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Morganfield. I am a lifelong South Dakotan, Rapid Cityan, wife, mother, proud Rosebud Sioux Tribe member, and board member of the Cornerstone Rescue Mission. One misconception I'd like to touch upon today is the people that would be utilizing the Respit program. These are unwell people in terms medically. They aren't, sorry, I get a little nervous public speaking. These people, the higher risk of infection going into communal spaces like the shelter, it just increases their risk for returning to the hospital, which then puts strain on our hospitals and clinics and medical staff and medical responders. I think that it's important to remember that these people are looking to heal and to recover, and they don't have the safety nets that we all do and we take for granted, that they don't have even a couch to sleep on. So I just ask you to consider the humanity portion of this plea to support the Respit program, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Next up, Brian Hendricks, followed by William Wagner, who is speaking on a different item.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Brian Hendricks, and I'm tentatively hired to be the Cornerstone Rescue Mission Respite Center Program Manager. So I felt compelled to come here tonight after viewing the results of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I was very disappointed with the results. I was upset, saddened by what came out of the neighborhood up there. A lot of issues going on up there. It sounds like a war zone. People shooting at houses, throwing stones. People are buying guns to take out their trash. But Cornerstone and the Respite program is not up and running. We're not part of the problem up there. and we don't intend to be. We've got the safeguards in place, which we've already kind of been hashing out. So I think we got a solid plan. I wouldn't be part of this if I didn't think it was. You know, speaking of war zones, I'm a retired military person. I've been to Iraq 2 different times, so I definitely have a appreciation for safety and, you know, a safe place to live. And I would say the customers, the folks that we're going to take care of are a small percentage of Rapid City's population, but by golly, they've got to be the most desperate and deserving of somewhere to go. I mean, let's think about it. They're coming out of the hospital and they have nowhere to go, nowhere. And how do you recuperate from when you're dumped on the street? You know, because right now, today, if somebody's getting released from the hospital, either they're going to stay and they're going to tie up a much-needed bed, or they're going to give in a taxi and they're dumped somewhere in our community. And then a small percentage of those folks wind up right back in the ambulance and right back to the hospital. So I really think we can do better. You know, Cornerstone Mission's been in Rapid City for 40 years. I think we understand our mission, and we have the knowledge and know-how to take care of this population. With our customer, Monument Health, and working in coordination with the fire department's community care folks, we have a vetting screening process to make sure we're getting the right clientele into this respite center. We're in agreement to put up fencing, a gate. We're hiring security. We're upping our personnel that are on staff 24 hours a day to be good neighbors and answer the concerns of the neighborhood. I really want to be a good neighbor. I'm a homeowner, so I understand the concerns but you know, this is commercial property. The hotel has been a hotel since the late 70s. It's currently zoned for a hotel, and in essence, this is what the respite center is. It's a short-term stay for people that need it, no different than a hotel in my book. So, you know, I'd share that with you, and it just seems like, you know, with the care center gone, you know, we got to do something, and this seems like a good sword to fall on
Time's
for a
up,
small
sir.
community. Thank you very much.
William Wagner, followed by Lana Reynolds.
Good evening, government. Good evening, citizens. I hope y'all hear this. These employees up here are under consent of the Constitution, which means they're in contract of the Constitution when y'all took an oath of office. Y'all are under a color of law, Title 18, Section 241. You know, when y'all put these fences up, I'm glad you fixed that a little bit, opening the gates, but also I'm talking about the contract, the instrument that Pennington Human Services is giving a one-way bus ticket out of the city, making them promise that they won't come back. That's deprivation of color of law. You know, y'all are in consent to preserve, protect, and defend our constitutional rights. We're only as strong as our weakest links in our city. We need to take care of our people. You know, with that contract, you know, it's undue influence. When someone wrongfully gains control over another and uses that power to substitute for the other persons, to establish in the courts, they consider 3 major elements. The victim was vulnerable, the wrongdoer had the apparent authority to abuse, and the terms of the government benefited the person exerting the influence. You know, I care for everybody. I don't care what skin you are. I lived in a mission. I lived in a $250,000 home. It's all the same. We all put our pets on the same. We all eat the same. Y'all are under oath to listen to us and not deprive us of our constitutional rights. And if y'all are, then we ask for due process, because we also want to know how much money are y'all getting, federal grant money, for the homeless people? What's the exact numbers? Where is that money going? We'd like to see that, okay? And y'all need to act by integrity and lead by leadership. And y'all are failing at leadership, because leadership, the main thing is comprehension among communication, okay? I thank y'all for your time, and I hope y'all heard that. They're under consent of the Constitution, which means they're in contract. They're in more contract of the Constitution than we are with a car contract or a home contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Lana Reynolds, who, by the way, Lana is getting a special privilege to speak on an item because I overlooked her during general public comment. So she'll have her 3 minutes. My apologies. Got mixed in. I got a big pile over here. I apologize, but we got you in.
Hi, my name is Lana Reynolds, and I have CRPS. It's Complex Regional Pain Syndrome. I got it August 2nd, 2022, when I broke my arm. It usually occurs when you have an injury. It's known as the most painful condition on the McGill pain scale. It's also called the suicide disease because the pain is so severe. The pain can be characterized as burning, sometimes ice, stabbing, crushing, extreme swelling. I used to work as a ranch hand. I was tough, but the CRPS was tougher. And now I spend my days between doctor appointments and physical therapy instead of riding horses, going out with the cows, living my life. Now I'm stuck with doctor appointments. There's no known cure and not much they can do for pain control. It's also a neurological condition, and there's been times I've been hospitalized. Not many people know about this condition, and today is actually CRPS Awareness Day. So I just wanted to come here and get some awareness.
Thank you for educating us. Thank you for your fight.
Thank you.
Next up, Robert Williams, and probably in the other room, followed by Glenda Williams. So we'll go ahead and keep that train moving.
Good evening, Council. It's already been a very eye-opening experience. Thank you very much for having time to listen to what I'm going to tell you, and that is that the people that I live with on and have met recently on Skyline Drive are entirely, they're friendly. I'm one of the people that picks up trash. I think I've picked up about 9 tons of garbage in the 12 years that I've been here along Skyline. Includes all sorts of materials and so forth, from drinking alcohol bottles, beer, syringes, crack pipes, things like that that just seem to be discarded from automobiles that drive down Skyline Drive. I feel insulted that by one of the speakers. It really got me upset, so I'm going to be a little calmer, I hope. I feel insulted that I was accused of not caring for the people in the building, when at the Planning Commission, I think I was the first person to ask who was liable. Who will be liable when one of the patients that's in that facility cannot defend themselves, or if they happen to have an accident, it's 10 inches of snow outside, and you can't get a plow up Tower Road even to alleviate or feed those people that are going to be trapped in that facility. The facility itself was not built for this. It does not have the security. It doesn't have a single place that you can come in and then be directed to the other bedrooms that are in that facility. It has outside doors and outside individual windows stuck together in the middle of they have 2 rows of what are essentially garages, and so they can get access this way. The security is going to be a challenge for Cornerstone, because how are you going to keep 24-hour security on a place that could have enough people there so that you can't control the issue? But if the residents in that part leave the building, We have some of the most dangerous parts of Rapid City that we walk on every day. There's probably a 2-foot path on either side of the road, and you don't want to walk on the left-hand side when you're walking toward the cemetery or when you're walking away from the cemetery. It drops off into, you can't see the basement, or you mean see the bottom of the valley that's right there. I see that my time's out, but I do want you to consider, if you get a chance,
Mr. Williams,
don't
your
visit.
time's up.
Thank you
And
very much.
Maybe Glenda can let you chime in on hers. Glenda Williams, followed by Dick McConnell.
Glenda Williams, I am Robert Williams' wife. We do live on Skyline Drive. We're lifelong members of the community. We were born here, went through school here. I'm very concerned about the safety of the people that will be in this facility. Some of these things have already been brought up, but some things I'd like to also ask Cornerstone maybe to answer is how are the men going to be separated from the women in this facility with outdoor entrances? I don't know how that's going to be possible. I worry. Look at some of the hotels that are very close to this facility, and there have been rapes, there have been attacks, many, many violent things happening, and that's a hotel also, same kind of thing. Same type of entrances, outdoor entrances. It isn't compliant at this point with the state or the local fire safety codes. That needs to be looked at. I know that they're not ADA compliant rooms. They don't have wide enough doors if you had a wheelchair. That needs to be looked at outside. I believe they'll have to do some ADA compliance so that they can have ramps getting up into some of the rooms. Also, the fencing that they're proposing, unless it completely encloses that facility, it won't be adequate. I know the area well. We walk by it every day. And one of the problems is it doesn't matter if it's fenced off on 2, 3 sides or even one side. You can walk around the back and get in. And I'm afraid that that might be a problem for the people staying there. Their safety really is important. And saying you have a gate that opens and closes locked and it's going to be controlled, I don't think is adequate for this particular facility. My husband talked about the dangers of the road. We walk every day just to pick up garbage. And we always turn when we hear a car and we face the traffic. The reason we do that is because there's a very narrow location that you can stand, and then the rest of it drops off 30 feet or so. My thoughts are, if that car comes towards me, do I have time to roll into that ditch? And we've had people deliberately play chicken with us, deliberately swerve their cars at us. I know some of my other neighbors have had that too. So it's always a concern. We haven't been hit in the 13 years that we've walked, and we walk every single day. But it's very concerning, and anybody coming out of that facility would have to think about that. We talked about liability, and I think that's my husband's big thing about it. But I do encourage you to look at all of these different safety issues when you consider this, and I really hope you don't do that in this neighborhood or approve it in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Next up, Dick McConnell, followed by Michael, I believe it's Ramey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name's Dick McConnell, and I've been a resident of Rapid City, and it's hard for me to believe, 52 years. And so I know a little bit about Rapid City. I've been on numerous boards and councils throughout the state and in the Rapid City area. But my concern is getting council approval for this Respit program to go in the Rapid City area, specifically 4080 Tower Road here in Rapid City. And I'm in favor of the group home for respite care in a building that was previously a hotel, and it's a joint effort between South Dakota Department of Health and Monument Health, Rapid City Fire Department Community, health workers, and the Cornerstone Rescue Mission. And I've been a member of the Cornerstone Board member since 1990, so I've been around almost since the inception of Cornerstone Rescue Mission, so I know the kind of people that we are serving in this community. So we will provide for this respite care 24-hour coverage. Visitation is by appointment only for those people that are since living in that facility. They're going to be provided for care and are driven to the site from the hospital. They're not going to be walking along the way because they still need care for their facility. So they will be given people from the hospital to take care of them for 24 hours a day. So visitation will be scheduled and monitored by staff in a general area and not in the individual rooms. So I'm saying, as a member of the Cornerstone Rescue Mission, we've already provided the funding for this motel converted into a respite center. So thank you very much, Council and Mayor, for your consideration.
Thank you. Next up, Michael Ramey, followed by Tricia Miller.
I want to make sure that the attorney who's representing our neighborhood has plenty of time. May I give him my time?
Well, it's 3 minutes per, but
Okay.
you should probably stand up there with him.
Okay, that's okay. So he's only get
Let's
3
do
minutes
that.
either way is what I'm hearing.
All right.
Okay. All right. Okay, then.
Does he have a speaker request form on this?
Yes, he does.
Okay.
Okay. So I live in the neighborhood, and I think the idea of a respite care sounds like it's a good idea. I'm not convinced this is the best plan, though. And my sense was that the Planning Commission turned it down because they felt like it wasn't the right place as well. So I have 3 little kids live in that neighborhood. I can walk to the lodge, but I have never walked to the lodge. Our mailboxes are also on Tower Road, and my kids will ask if they can walk with me to get the mail. They have never walked to get the mail because I'm afraid if they walk on Tower Road, they will die. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. They ask me like every couple of months, Dad, can we walk down Tower Road? I won't let them walk down Tower Road. I do not walk down Tower Road. It is dangerous. There's nowhere for pedestrians to walk, to stand, to be. I don't expect that people who will be in that respite care will be treated like prisoners. They should not be treated like prisoners. They're human beings, and human beings have a right to get out and walk on a nice day. It might be an important piece of their recovery. This place has no sidewalk. There's no place for pedestrians whatsoever. And I believe this so firmly, I don't allow my children to ever walk on Tower Road. I do not walk on Tower Road because I'm fearful for their lives. I don't envy your decisions. Thank you for the time.
All right, next up, Tricia Miller, followed by Mariah Sir.
Hi, I'm Tricia Miller. I'm a resident of the area of proposed. I approached you in desiring that you deny the appeal before you, given that another city body whose purpose is to make these decisions already denied the conditional use permit. I've thought about what I'd want to consider if I were in your shoes in considering this appeal, and these are things that stood out to me. One, certainly, first and without a doubt foremost, helping to lessen homelessness is a cause everyone should be on board with in Rapid City. The people who live in the neighborhoods of off Tower Road and the Enchanted Hills area are in favor of lessening homelessness. Unfortunately, number 2 is that this issue is not about lessening homelessness. It is an issue about giving additionally vulnerable homeless persons a safe, comfortable, secure place at which to rest and heal following medical treatment. There is nothing in the current proposal that provides for finding a home for these homeless or others. In fact, the current proposal does not give me a picture at all for certain how long these homeless persons will be allowed to stay in the facility, nor what it will look like when their stay is complete. Are they to be transported to the creek, to Walmart, to a random neighborhood of their choosing, or are they to walk from the facility when their time is up? I have not heard one person talk about getting these homeless individuals into a place to stay after. This seems to be a huge and unfortunate oversight. This brings me to number 3. Why are we not talking about helping these vulnerable people find homes? Weren't millions of dollars thrown at one heart? What about Oyate? Why doesn't Cornerstone want this population in any of their other centers? That's an issue for outside of my 3 minutes. 4, that said, the facility being proposed has so many issues. It should not be the standard of care we settle for persons recovering from medical issues or who are continuing to receive medical treatment there. I'm not opposed to the respite, I'm opposed of how this is going to be done. We should not be deciding based on what we can accept for care, but what is right to have for care. It saddens me that 2 doctors and an entire hospital would be in favor of this low standard as well, honestly. I know you'll hear about the issues from others. So do you know a 2024 article in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that 67% of homeless people have a mental health disorder compared to the 13 to 15% of the general population? I bring this up because, 1, I'm a psychologist, but because they are more likely to leave than the general population. Studies have found rates of leaving against medical advice generally to be 1 to 2%, but amongst populations with mental health issues, as you've heard earlier, rates are much higher, between 14 and 54%. Anyone saying there won't be people leaving against medical advice and walking along Tower Road is uninformed. Again, aren't among those backing this most strongly medical providers and our biggest medical facility? Appalling. It seems the money they save or will gain from this outweighs the safety and security of the homeless individuals they'll claim recognition for helping. I'm pretty sure helping shouldn't include a place situated where if they walk, there are 0 sidewalks and is a long walk to any place they could duck in for warmth or for anything else. That doesn't sound helpful to me, and it certainly doesn't seem responsible of you to support.
All right, time's up, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Francis Kaufman. That will be followed by Christine Carey.
Hello, my name is Francis Kaufman. I am a Navy veteran. I was formerly homeless. I'm currently on the board of directors for the Cornerstone Rescue Mission. I'm here to speak in support of the respite program. I know I've heard a lot of things this evening. These people that we want to help, I mean, could you imagine getting released from the hospital with stitches or a medical condition that you don't have anywhere to go? Can anybody in here? Anybody? I know there's certain people in here that can't, but I couldn't imagine not having anywhere to get well. That's what we're trying to do. That is the only thing we are trying to do. We want to have a place for unhoused people to get well. What human in here would not want that to happen? I'm sorry, it'll be near your neighborhood, not in it. But, okay, I will, sorry, I'm getting worked up. I myself was unhoused at some point. I stayed at the mission for 6 months. They helped me get a home. So for anybody to say that we do not do that, the only reason I was able to get a home was because of Cornerstone. They paid off my back bills, helped me get my children back, and a home. And now, I sit and listen. We are trying to fulfill a need that isn't being fulfilled by the city or anybody else. We are trying to do that. And we have partnered with a company that can provide that money, that can provide the financials, all the things that go with having we know how to manage homeless people. We know how to handle situations that come up. We partnered with Monument to cover the medical aspect. Nowhere else in town, nowhere is doing that anymore. We are trying to provide that service. I understand that change can be scary, but right now, that's currently a motel. Anybody could stay there. Anybody. Rapists, pedophiles, murderers, drug dealers, as people keep bringing up, anybody can stay there currently. What would be the difference? Oh, the difference is that these people are vetted by medical professionals and brought there, provided, yes, anybody can leave somewhere, but that's true anywhere. This is something the city needs, no question, the city needs this. I hope all of you make the right decision tonight. Thank you.
All right, Christine Carey, followed by Stephanie Core. Did I miss somebody? Stand by. No? Oh, Mariah, yeah. I'm sorry, maybe I did. I'm sorry, Christine. Folks, forgive me, I'm trying to keep track up here. Thank you, council, for keeping me straight, as they usually do.
Well, hopefully I'm not unforgettable after this. Hello, everyone. My name is Mariah, and I'm a community health worker. Really quick, community health worker, we absolutely get people into houses who are unhoused. It is super vital. It is super important. Without that, we would have no job. But I stand before you to address a pressing issue that demands our immediate attention: the plight of the unhoused in our community and beyond. As humans, we often find ourselves voicing problems and concerns without taking the necessary steps towards real solutions. This has to stop today. We know that being unhoused is an immense challenge in itself, but when combined with illness, it becomes a crisis. That's why we must advocate for the medical respite care, a solution that has been researched, implemented, and proven effective in communities across several states. We have seen its success, and we can replicate that success here. Let's be clear. The issues we discuss in this room are not just hypothetical. They are urgent and real. We cannot afford to make decisions based on feelings or what-ifs. We must rely on facts, research, and commitment to action. I know this firsthand. I have been homeless. All it took was one person to believe in me and offer a way forward. Imagine if we could be that one person for someone else in need. Now let's address the stigma surrounding the unhoused. Too often they are seen as unstable or defined solely by their struggles, be it addiction, mental health issues, or misfortune. But let's not forget, any one of us could find ourselves in their shoes. Any one of us. I have worked closely with the unhoused for 2 years, and I can assure you that their stories are not just tales of despair. They are powerful narratives of resilience and strength. These individuals have faced unmanageable challenges. They deserve our respect and support. If I were to fall ill and require 2 weeks of recovery, I have a home to return to. But what about someone who is unhoused? They would be forced to remain in a hospital, consuming valuable resources that could be better utilized. This is a stark reality that we must confront. Each of you on the council has a responsibility to act. You are here because you want to find solutions, and I urge you to take that responsibility seriously. The medical respite at 4080 Tower Road is not merely a facility. It is a critical lifeline for those who need it most. We cannot stand by while our neighbors suffer. It is time for us to be bold, to be decisive, and to advocate fiercely for those who cannot advocate for themselves. Together, we can change lives. Together, we can build a community where every individual is treated with dignity and given the opportunity to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Christine Carey, followed by Stephanie Core.
Mayor, Council, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Christine Carey. I'm a family nurse practitioner and the Associate Medical Director at Complete Health. Our clinic provides health care to the homeless in Rapid City. My comments tonight are in reference to the denial of going forward with the proposed respite care facility. I understand that these matters are quite complex for our community. I'd like to share for our consideration some basic data that's not incredibly complex. 59% of Americans are one paycheck away from being homeless. The 3 top contributing factors for escalating homelessness are lack of affordable housing, unemployment, and poverty, not substance use or mental health as often believed. In Rapid City, the average rent is $1,281 a month. This means a person would need to make $25.82 an hour to afford basic housing. The U.S. Bureau of Labor cites that the average wage in South Dakota is $25.35. My heart aches. These people we talk about are moms, dads, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, friends, and neighbors. Rapid City needs to do better. First, we lost the Hope Center. Now we're fencing off public spaces and parks and refusing respite medical care. This is not okay. In 2023, the number of people experiencing homelessness in the state of South Dakota was 1,282. Of those, 73% were sheltered and 27% were unsheltered. Keep in mind, this is a point-in-time count, and so people that weren't there at that time were not included in this. More than 86% of the homeless have at least one chronic medical condition. This includes conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, HIV, AIDS, and they're found to be 3 to 6 times higher rates among the homeless. Without medical respite, people experiencing homelessness have been shown to have longer hospital stays and more likely to spend their night post-hospitalization living unsheltered. They also have suboptimal outcomes due to lack of appropriate discharge options. As an example, one of my patients last year suffered a serious injury. He was initially admitted for 4 days and then discharged home. He then required readmission on 2 more occasions that led to a total admission time of 31 days. With each of these admissions, he was discharged home, knowing well that he's homeless and unsheltered. Medical respite, in turn, decreases time spent in the hospital, emergency department use, and readmission rates. This results in cost savings for hospital. It can improve health-related quality of life and health management. It can also reduce gaps in service and increases connection and use of benefits, outpatient primary care, and mental health care. Between last year's decision to deny the Hope Center a zoning change and the recent decision to design the respite facility on Highway 16, it feels to many that this current city leadership is lacking compassion.
Ms. Carey, your time is up. Next up, Stephanie Kaur, followed by Richard Hemming.
Can I share a photo? Is that possible? Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm Stephanie Kaur. I was born and raised in Rapid City. I left only after college to see the world for 10 years, and then returned home to raise my child in the best place I've ever known. I love being a wife, a mother, and a South Dakotan. I take pride in being from here. I've dedicated my life to being a good neighbor and a kind relative. I've spent my adult life working with the underserved. I did time at Child Protective Services, Youth and Family Services, and most recently, I'm honored to serve as the executive director at Journey On. I don't normally come up and speak out during meetings like this, but last time I shared this room with all of you, a Skyline neighbor declared loudly, he doesn't love the homeless. I'm here to tell you, I do love the homeless. In my world, lovability is not determined by whether you have a roof over your head or money in your account. In 2023, McKinney-Vento identified 700 kids in the Rapid City Area School District as homeless or at risk of homelessness. When we talk about houseless relatives, we're not only talking about those relatives we see on the street corners holding signs, we're talking about those who live in hotels, those who are couch surfing, those who are facing eviction, the brothers, sisters, mothers, aunties who don't have stable housing for a variety of reasons. Maybe a relative is escaping domestic violence. Maybe their landlord sold the place they lived in for 6 years and now they can't afford housing. Maybe a spouse or parent became incarcerated. The bills became too much. Maybe a relative is battling addiction. Whatever the reason, do they not deserve a healthy place to recover after a hospital stay? I'd like to introduce you to Brittany. She can't be here tonight because she's at work, but she's granted me permission to share her story. Brittany is a Rapid City citizen also. She's beautiful, she's young, she's educated, she's a mother and a wife, she's a former foster parent. Brittany, along with her husband Ryan, and their 7 children were homeless for 397 days in this community. They bounced from hotel to hotel, sometimes sleeping in the car when rates were too high during tourist season. She endured a pregnancy and birth during that time. I've heard the neighbors of Skyline refer to the houseless as many negative stereotypes, but they are wrong. Brittany's not riffraff. She's not a criminal. She's not an addict. She's not unloved, and she is not a thief. Brittany deserves the same healing environment as those of us fortunate enough to have a home to return to following a medical event. Support the Medical Respite Center for Brittany and the many, many others in our community who deserve to have the same privilege as the rest of us. And for those of you who walk Skyline Drive where it's so dangerous for the neighbors, My challenge to you is visit that respite center and take them on that walk with you every single day. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, Richard Hemming, followed by Nancy Hemming.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'd first like to say I'm a resident in the Skyline subdivision area, and I've personally had experience as a director serving in a nonprofit organization that serves drug and alcohol addiction people. Very, very sensitive to their needs, concerns, also those who are homeless. And I certainly, as a member of this community, care about homeless and dealing with homeless issues in our community. I would like to point out something kind of simple that I've discovered in looking at Cornerstone's approach to patient care and their interest in being a good neighbor. It's their policy on what happens to a patient who leaves the property of their own will. Have any of you, by chance, looked at that? Well, Cornerstone's position when this situation occurs is they won't let that patient back in. Okay, that seems reasonable from one point of view. But there doesn't seem to be any thought or plan to notify medical personnel, fire, law enforcement. Most importantly, there doesn't appear to be any thought or interest in notifying families or the schools in the area that a patient has left the facility with unknown destination and unknown intentions. And most importantly, their medical conditions and other critical information. This really gets to an issue of transparency, I think. There has been no transparency with members of the community to be involved in knowing and understanding what the plan is coming to this facility, how patients are going to be cared for. We've submitted to you information suggesting that there is inadequate procedures, inadequate facilities to care for the people who are going to stay there. And for those reasons, we feel very strongly this is just not the right place to be establishing a respite care facility. But important in all of this is the transparency that has been lacking, involving members of the community to know and understand how this is going to work. And if you were to have someone leave the facility and be told...
Your time's up.
Yeah, thank you.
Nancy Hemming, followed by Eileen Desmond.
Hi, Mayor and City Council. This facility is repurposing of an outdated and no longer used hotel facility. The entrances to the rooms themselves, no hallways, the bathrooms in the rooms, and any common areas were not constructed for use as a medical facility. It was constructed in 1950. If there's one person watching over 28 or 29 sick individuals, I worry about their safety. How can one person watch over that many sick people? And with both men and women there together, I would worry as a woman. I would fear for my safety. I worry about the homeless feeling better and then leaving the facility. There aren't sidewalks. There isn't light at night. There's no public transportation service or public services, including toilets and sanitation. Crossing Highway 16 on foot isn't safe either. If sick clients leave on their own, I would worry for their safety walking on the roads. Would residents be notified if a patient leaves? Who would be notified? As much as a visitation may be restricted, it goes without saying that utilization of this facility as proposed will increase pedestrian traffic along Tower Road. You were given a letter signed by 90 residents with compelling reasons for you to decline Cornerstone's application. This shouldn't be in any residential neighborhood. We know there is a need for respite, but Big Sky Lodge isn't the right place. I believe you should respect the wisdom of the Planning and Zoning Commission and deny this project. Thank you.
All right, next up, Eileen Desmond, followed by Eric Walker.
Hi, I'm Eileen Desmond, and I'm in favor of the care facility in the former Big Sky Lodge. I ask the residents of that area to please not to make your decision, but to oppose this facility. I hear a lot of concern about the homeless, but not in my backyard. I read in the opposition letters that there's a school nearby, and a few letters mentioned a Christian school, even better. When your children ask, what is that gated facility, you say, honey, we are helping our neighbors heal from their injuries and surgeries because they have no house and no warm bed to go home to. Behind that fence could be the woman who tried to cross a dark street at night. Yes, under the influence, but nevertheless hit by a car with her eye socket pushed in the back of her head by a rearview mirror. How do you defend yourself on the streets when you can't even see? Not to mention the headaches and pain. Or the man who's defending his whole household as you would defend your homes, but it happens to be on a backpack, and in his desperation hang on to it is stabbed or shot. He has to go back out in the street with wounds that need to be cleaned and changed, but there's no running water and no bathrooms open. This is not some foreign country opening a site to make money and disappear. These are your fellow citizens. This is the police department, the fire department, Monument, the Cornerstone Mission. They're asking to help them to find the gap between being hospitalized and homeless. They're concerned as much as you are. Most of your letters started with, this is a great idea and we need this in our community. But kindness for our fellow humans has to start somewhere, and we're asking you to do it. Some residents of the area may have heard the quote, much is required from the person who much has been given to. I read in the opposition letters the concern that the building wasn't safe. I can assure you that trying to recover under the bridge is extremely not safe. Another concern was people walking up that hill. In my experience, and those who work the streets as I do, walking is usually for finding food, feeding an addiction. But when wanting to visit friends at the hospital, they ask us for rides. God the Father, we ask you to fill our hearts with your love. Help us to listen with compassion and to speak with kindness and confidence. Jesus, we pray for the grace to go without our preconceived judgments so we can be true peacemakers and love our neighbor as ourself. Stir in us the fire of your love and guide us with discernment. Fill our hearts with generosity and kindness. Holy Spirit, inspire us with joy and patience. Be at work in all of us so we can bring healing to the brokenhearted, hope to the destitute, love and compassion to all our suffering. Thank you.
Next, Eric Walker, followed by Ryan Marks.
Good evening, and thank you, council members and mayor. I'm here today to speak in opposition of the current agenda item. I have a few comments and concerns about this proposal. Reading through the public comments and those of the previous owners of the property, I'm concerned about the current state of the building. It's not clear if the wiring is up to code. It doesn't appear that all the rooms will be ADA compliant, and the interior of the building is far from what is needed for a proper and up-to-code nursing facility. Given the age of this building, there is a possibility that many parts of it could contain asbestos. This is something we will only know, though, once renovations start. I find it difficult to believe this building is our city's best long-term answer to this problem. It's also worth noting that the proposal would have twice as many beds as the national average. That's 29 versus 16 as the national average for respite facilities. Why not construct a new building for this patient population instead of gutting, renovating, and spending tax dollars on an old motel that is structurally far from ideal? I'm also concerned about the surrounding roads, safety, and security postures suggested in the agenda item. Security will be a challenge with limited staff and 29 rooms with outward-facing doors. There's no mention of audible alarms on each door, which I believe is a requirement for a nursing facility. In multiple parts of the application, the applicant states that the property, quote, will be fenced all the way around. However, in the site plan, it shows that the security fence does not cover the back third of the property. The back third, or 400 feet of the property, will retain the existing 3-foot split rail fence. Discussing the fencing It's important to highlight that these patients are not kept against their will. They're free to leave at any time, and the reality is they will exercise that right and leave when they want. I find this especially likely when you look at the data. The applicant states that the approximate length of stay will be 2 weeks or less. However, the national average of length of stay at respite centers is about 37 days. The national 2023 data, which is on the website, also states that only 10% of respite care centers in the US discharge patients in less than 2 weeks. Many have an average of 60 days or more. The point I'm making here is that after 37 days in a motel room, or likely long before that, these patients will need and seek out a change of scenery. I guarantee you sometimes that will be on foot, off the premises, without a ride, and those walking options include Tower Road, Floorman Street, or maybe even down the highway or across it. It is the most direct route back into town. All these options have no sidewalk and pose danger to pedestrians and drivers. This is especially true with the increased traffic as a result of this facility. I believe that this idea brings a lot of value to both Monument and Rapid City. However, I encourage you to deny this conditional use permit as is proposed today. Please support the decision of your Planning Commission. Thank you.
All right, Ryan Marks, followed by Kevin Kuhn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Ryan Marks. I'm the captain in charge of the Mobile Integrated Health Program with the Rapid City Fire Department. I'd like to explain briefly what a community health worker is and the scope of the CHWs in the proposed respite facility. CHW is an advocate that gets a patient the care they need by overcoming barriers to access. CHWs are part of a larger patient care team, which includes specialists, nurses, and medical doctors. Every contact with a patient, every transport of that patient is documented and follows the unique care plan which has been signed by the patient's physician. They are certified as a community health worker and are not necessarily an EMT or a paramedic. There have been several concerns about the need for this respite facility to meet hospital requirements, including nursing staff on site and crash carts. Any needed medical care, such as wound care, IVs, cardiac monitor, etc., will take place in a clinic setting, not the respite facility. The CHWs will be at the facility daily to ensure the individual is following their specific care plan the same way any one of our loved ones would be looking after us as we heal in our own home as if we had just been discharged from the hospital. The Rapid City Fire Department always has and will provide the highest level of service to the members of our community. Since the inception of the Mobile Medic Program in 2016, we have worked to address repeat calls for service and high utilizers of the ambulance. The Mobile Medic Program has proven that proactive actions on the streets have reduced low acuity calls for service. Providing this wraparound care that CHWs perform while an individual is still in the hospital has proven that the individual is less likely to require readmission or require emergency services, including ambulance transport after discharge. The South Dakota Department of Health not only allows the use of CHWs, but encourages it, awarding the Rapid City Fire Department multiple grants to fund the training and certification of community health workers. The RCFD currently has 4 certified CHWs providing service, with another 7 that have been trained, including all of our mobile medics. Our 4 active CHWs meet daily with the patient care team at Monument Health. They follow up with individuals still in the hospital and ensure the needs are met with individuals who have been discharged. This ongoing care prevents unnecessary ambulance transports, reduces readmission, and most importantly, gets the right resource to the right person at the right time. Our CHWs help individuals meet their ongoing care needs by providing education, addressing social determinants of health, and assisting patients with transportation to scheduled appointments. The Rapid City Fire Department has staffing levels, minimum staffing levels for all of our emergency apparatus that is never impacted by CHW or mobile medic duties. The CHWs within the Rapid City Fire Department are members of the Mobile Integrated Health Program and do not respond to emergency calls for service. The mission of our CHWs...
Time's up, Brian. Thank you. Kevin Kuhn, followed by Brian Belitsky.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Kevin Keene.
My apologies.
That's no problem. I come from a different point of view with this whole operation. I have property that adjoins the old Big Sky Lodge. I'd like to thank the council members for those that took the time to talk to me on the phone and a couple members that came out and actually viewed the property out there. I come from a whole different point of view on this. I support the project. I happen to be on the Pennington County Planning Commission, so I've seen meetings like this where we have a number of people that don't like it and a couple of them that do like it. What I think that we're really based on is what the Growth Management Department has put together here. I think that the zoning of group home is very accurate for what's going on up there. And it's just a short one, I'll read it to you. An activity, this is for a group home, the municipal code. An activity providing personal assistance to 6 or more individuals unrelated by blood or marriage who, by reason of mental or physical disability, addiction to drugs or alcohol, or family and school adjustment problems require the specialized attention and care in order to achieve personal independence. The assistance must include board and room and may include counseling, rehabilitation services, and other incidental services customarily provided by group homes. This shall not include missions, detoxification centers, and detention centers. So when I look at it, the Growth Management Department, again, has gone through the ordinances, the laws that we have to follow. It was recommended to the Planning Committee to approve this. The Planning Committee is the one that denied it. But they used all that we have on the books. I believe this is a true property management or property rights issue here. The Cornerstone Mission, if they don't put this program in there, they can start tomorrow as a motel because they don't need a conditional use for that. This is already running through that way. With my property right next door, I think my good neighbors to the south feel the same way that I do. Their property abuts the south side of the building. So we've got 2 property owners that abut this property that are in support of this project. I hope that we can look at it as a property rights issue here and that the Cornerstone Mission, well, they will be the ones doing the operation in addition to the hospital. You know, we have so many good organizations that are supporting this that I don't think that we can stop there.
Brian Beliski, followed by Altina, 3 stars.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Brian Belinsky. I live just 2 doors down on Skyline Ranch Road, which it comes off Tower Road. And I, like everybody here has stated in one way or another, they do recognize the need for this group home and respite center in Rapid City, but I would oppose this location, mainly because of the proximity to the homes in this certain area. Another concern that has also been voiced this evening is the safety along Tower Road. And other subjects that have been brought up is the structural stability of that facility, and if there are individuals willing to finance the remodeling and reconditioning of the facility, wouldn't that money be better spent on a new facility which is going to be built for that need? Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. 3 stars, followed by Dennis Johnson.
Thank you all for your time this evening. Hello, everybody. Hello, relatives. My name is Altina 3 stars. I am Oglala Lakota. I am a member of the Oglala Sioux tribe. I am a mother of 5 children. I've moved to Rapid City 15 years ago, and I made this my forever home. I am a proud homeowner and member of Ward 4. My why is to make the community a better place to live for my children and future generations. So that is why I do what I do. And I'm very passionate about what I do. I would like to take a moment here, first and foremost, though, to provide some cultural awareness to the council, to Mr. Mayor, and to our local community members. As a Lakota woman, tulili, it is the equivalent of clapping and is meant no disrespect. And so for those of us that were in the room and that were lilying, that was our way of clapping. And so I just want to bring that to the community. I ask that you try to be a little bit more understanding and of the culture that has been here for generations. So moving forward, The reason that I'm here tonight is in support of respite care. A little bit about my backstory. 5 years ago, I took a position with Great Plains Tribal Leaders Health Board. That's a mouthful. During the pandemic, I worked in the Emergency Operations Center, and I helped at the COVID isolation unit at the Big Sky Lodge. I was a case manager. I helped to transport our relatives that were COVID positive. I picked up, transported to from the hospital and back, provided and disinfected, disinfectant, cleaned the rooms. We had females on one side of the building, so to address your concern, females were on the east side, males were on the west side. We had staff on site 24/7. We also had individuals, grassroots efforts that played security. And basically we provided a safe place for those that needed a place to heal and recover from their illness. To add, I also worked in the behavioral health for 3.5 years at Oyate Health Center. I have a good understanding of behavioral health, addiction, and public health. My job for 2.5 years was to reduce mental health stigma. So it is really unfortunate that I sit here in this room and hear some of the people in here only further perpetuate the stigma of our houseless relatives. Short story, over 2 years ago, I could have really used respite care. We had a relative who showed up. Recently, his leg was amputated and he was new to a wheelchair. He was transported to Oyate Behavioral Health on La Crosse. He was left there as part of his discharge plan. We were not the place, nor were we prepared for his level of care. Luckily, we had a case manager from the co-response team on staff who found him a hotel room and helped him for a week while he healed. I am part of Journey On. I am their program coordinator, and we help do street outreach. I'm here because I am passionate about the community and making it a better place to live. And I ask that you over there that have the power to vote, I ask that you consider this and just vote with your heart tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Dennis Johnson, followed by Coy Petilico. Coy, you probably can correct me if I misread that, but Mr. Johnson, you're up next.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I've live in the community up there, I and my wife, and we've been up there for pretty near 40 years now and seen a lot of changes in that part of the neighborhood. And I don't think anybody in this room is against respite care. The concern that I see has more to do with the facility itself. And Mr. Belinsky kind of relayed to this a little bit earlier, but I wouldn't have any problem at all if a rebuilt structure were put in there, built specifically for the purposes of respite care, with all of the amenities and things that would be needed to make it comfortable for the patients and easily accessible for those that need to care for them and for the community around us. Thank you.
All right, Coy, followed by Matt Nates. Some of the handwriting, but
yeah, it's my handwriting. I apologize. So
yeah.
My name's Coy Bifocal.
Okay.
I'm a resident of Rapid City. I live like down the hill from Dinosaur Park, so I'm not on Skyline. I'm more in the West Boulevard area. I'm definitely for the respite program. I think to look at some of the concerns about the homeless is, for starters, they live on the streets. I think they can walk a road. I think they're okay to walk a road. I think they have enough common sense to be able to stay off of it if needed to be. And as far as the transportation back and forth, I know Journey On does a phenomenal job of transporting them. I don't think they're going to be discharged and then they're going to walk from that facility to wherever they need to be. That just doesn't sound right. I'm looking at the codes that they're starting to bring up about it not being the right place, and I just don't think it's not their say. We have a codes department that can take a look at those. And if that's a concern, that those can be brought up in another alter. It shouldn't be the public that brings up those code issues. I just like to say that, yes, I'm very much for this. I'm not affiliated with Cornerstone or Journey On or anything else. I'm just a resident. But I think that Cornerstone has been here for 40 years. They have a phenomenal program, and I think they need our support as a city council, as a citizenship. Journey On has been a rising star in our community, and I think they need our support as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, if you pronounce your last name for me so I don't feel too bad about butchering it. You have the handwriting of an attorney, that's all I know.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Matt Nas, Gunderson Palmer Law Firm. I'm here on behalf of several residents in the area. They are explaining to you and have already explained to you why this facility and this location is wrong for this project. What I'm here to do this evening is to explain to you why this appeal itself is legally improper. What you see before you is SDCL 11-4-25.1, which was adopted by the state legislature in 2018. As you can see, that statute begins any appeal of a decision granting or denying a conditional use permit shall be brought under a petition duly verified for a writ of, nobody knows how to pronounce that word, directed to the approving authority. What that means is that any appeal of a CUP issued by the approving authority, which in this case is the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we'll get to that in a moment, needs to be brought to a court, not to the City Council. Rapid City Ordinance 17.54.01D1 provides the Planning and Zoning Commission the authority to grant conditional use permits. That ordinance, says that the Planning and Zoning Commission shall review and approve conditional use permits. Now, as we all know, there's language in the city ordinances that allow for appeals to this body, the City Council, should someone be dissatisfied with the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission. However, as the ordinance clearly says, it's the Planning and Zoning Commission in the first instance who is the approving authority. And I misspoke, it's not even in the first instance. They are the approving authority. That decision becomes final, absent an appeal to the City Council, which, according to this statute, which interestingly was approved after the city ordinance was granting the appeal right to this body. Pursuant to the very plain language of this statute, statutes typically aren't quite this plain, but it says any appeal of a decision regarding a CUP. And it goes on to say that notwithstanding any provision of law to the contrary. That provision of law to the contrary is your ordinance giving this body the opportunity to review an appeal of a conditional use permit. Thank you for the time. I'll be brief. The process here worked. This governing body gave the Planning and Zoning Commission the ability to approve or deny conditional use permits. Pursuant to the statute that you've now seen, any appeal of that decision belongs in court, not here. I would also briefly get into the record that 11-4-24, another statute in the municipal zoning title, requires 2/3 of this body to overturn the decision of the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Brian Hammerbeck, followed by Uriah Glenn.
Hello, Mayor, Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Brian Hammerbeck, and my wife and I have been residents of Pevins Parkway here in Rapid City for 21 years. I'm here to speak against the proposal of Big Sky. There's been many people spoke in favor or against it. In general, I have compassion for our homeless, but I'm going to approach this from a little different perspective. I've met with several city council members, and I've been told not to bring this up, which tells me I'm going to do it anyway. What I want to ask to this council, back in 2019, another council of your prior peers approved $5 million for the CARE campus. Another $11 million of private money went into that facility. $16 million total. And as I recall, and I supported it back then, That was supposed to be a centralized spot to help us deal with our homeless crisis here in Rapid City. I want to ask this council, is anybody monitoring whether that performance is being achieved? We're talking about Big Sky, we're talking about other locations, they all have good intentions. I believe in homeless or the medical respite like they say, but just not there. It's no secret, but is that care campus $16 million of our taxpayer money and private citizens' money being used like it should? There was $11 million of private donations that went in there. 68 people inside the 234-page application were talking about it, and the overall idea, as I read it, was that this was supposed to be a one spot, a centralized spot to help our community and our citizens and our homeless deal with these issues. And I don't know if it's happening. It feels to me like if the care campus was being used to its fullest potential, Monument Health wouldn't have the problem that they have right now, not having a place to admit some of these homeless folks to the appropriate and a safe environment. Inside this document, on section 3.4, it talks about 4 reasons why the Kansas City address across from the Sheriff's Department and Police Department were correct. I'm not going to read it tonight, but those 4 reasons are powerful, and Big Sky Motel has none of that. Our mayor has talked and research that I've done about our homeless population increasing. I'd make an argument that what's going on at the care campus, that $16 million facility, isn't effective. It isn't working. So I'm challenging this council for the $1 a year that we're getting as citizens to lease that $16 million facility. Is that being utilized to its fullest extent? And challenge this council to make sure that it is. I look at this as a great opportunity for our city leaders, Monument Health, to get together, maybe reorganize and take a second look at Care Campus so we can better serve our homeless folks. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Uriah Glenn, and Robert Sage will be after that.
This is my first council meeting, and you guys have a tough job. So I believe having a safe place to recuperate should not be based on your income level, and your income level doesn't give you the right to control people's access to their health care. These people don't have families to take them in. They need us to get this right. If we don't get this right, it leads to more tax dollars being wasted on police and fire services, emergency room visits that cost thousands, when they can be addressed at the Respit Center. I worked as a social worker in Ventura, California for 5 years before moving here. I watched what happens when places like this are not available so that people can recover and rejoin society and give us some time to find housing for them. The issues get worse and they get overwhelming. We have a chance to get this right now. The questions and concerns by the homeowners in the surrounding area, they've been addressed. I can't even say homeowners in the neighborhood. As I took a ride up there myself, there was only 2 houses that can even be seen from that facility. I drove down and many of the houses were half a mile away. I mean, they're not even anywhere close. This was a motel at one point, so some of these issues of safety, I mean, weren't they brought up then? I want to share with our Vice President, Hubert Humphrey, made a quote once, said, "The ultimate moral test of any government is the way it treats 3 citizen groups of its citizens. First, those in the dawn of life, our children. Second, those in the shadow of life, our needy, our sick, our handicapped. Third, those in the twilight of light, our elderly." So these are our citizens and they need our help. So I just ask you to support this.
Thank you. Next is Robert Sage, to be followed by Becky Sage.
Hello, council members, mayor. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak. I speak in opposition to the present proposal of the respite facility. I don't think anyone in this room desires this to not be successful. For that reason, this project needs a better plan and a better location. In looking at the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes and recording online, I think it's important to note their problems with the facility. They studied this, they reviewed the proposal, and their comments were thus. There's no sidewalk safety. I don't see this as the right facility, and this is from an corrections officer and police officer. I can't support it. For the safety of the people in this is supposed to serve, I think it is wholly inadequate. As a medical facility, as a care facility, I can't believe there isn't a better location for this in Rapid City. From a safety standpoint, I cannot support this. This doesn't meet criteria in many areas. There are no pedestrian vehicle access. It lacks safety and lighting. If you look at the situation up at this building, there isn't a single street light from that church all the way down to Cathedral Drive. There is a 4-inch shoulder with guardrails. There is no place for these people to walk if they do choose to leave. I know someone challenged them to walk with people. They're not allowed to leave without being kicked out of the facility. They can't walk there. So I think that's kind of a moot point. But what I'd like to say is, as a physician for 12 years in this town and 10 years at the VA, I've been in charge of the quality assessment panel for Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Minnesota. When we're tasked with evaluating patient outcomes and complaints, when patients have bad outcomes, the first thing we do is look at standards. If you look at the National Institute of Medical Respite Centers, this falls short as a proposal. As previously mentioned, there are averages, there are numbers. This is inadequately staffed. 2 members per 29 patients is wholly inadequate as a facility. This doesn't have any of the infection protocols. It has dirty carpet. You can't sanitize bodily fluids from these surfaces. This is not a healthcare facility. This is not what healthcare looks like. These people deserve better, and that's our whole point. These are vulnerable people who deserve better care than a rundown motel. In addition, their outdoor rooms is a problem. According to their own standards, standard number 6 on their website, patients in these respite care facilities need peer support. Isolation is not peer support. They need common hallways, they need common meeting areas, they need places for other people to hold them accountable to their recovery as well. As previously mentioned, there are problems with the response time. I agree, this is not healthcare. This is an unregulated, unlicensed converted motel that does not have proper assurances of safety for the patients. No common hallway, no medical staff, no response team. I know there's no crash cart, but there's no proposal, there's no auspices in this proposal at all for any healthcare personnel to be there at all times, and there are going to be emergencies. Thank you for your time.
Next up, Betsy Sage, followed by Brandy Tackett.
Hello there, my name is Betsy Sage and I live in the neighborhood of the Big Sky Lodge. I want to express my opposition to the conditional use permit appeal requested by the Cornerstone and Big Sky for the Cornerstone for the Big Sky Motel, and ask you to respect the decision made by your Planning and Zoning Committee to deny the conditional use permit based on many reasons, but most importantly, the lack of safety for patients and for the community. While the idea of the medical respite in some cities may have merit, it's important to note that the facility proposed by the Cornerstone Mission and Monument Health is wholly inadequate, as quoted by one of your zoning members. The rejection by the Zoning and Planning Commission was based on careful thought and much debate. Upon reading about medical respites, careful consideration should be given to the location of this so that it does succeed. Putting it in a poor location sets it up for failure, and that's not what any of us want. Based on what even they said in Fargo, North Dakota about how they chose it, it was based on a community-wide team approach. I'm not sure any of that has been available. I want to go back to the safety. The vehicular traffic for pedestrians is a major concern. There's no public transit. I have some photos that I want to share. This was Skyline Drive tonight when I left. I don't know how you get it up there. This was coming up Tower Road. Is it showing up? Oh, there we go. There's absolutely nothing. It's pitch black. So that's the sky cam that you get too. Downtown, sidewalks, lights. This is the photo that we get of this road. And I have another photo of the guardrails. Now, I've walked this neighborhood also for 12 years. I don't continue up. Like my other neighbor said, I'm not. This is where the guardrails are. Now, you tell me, see where the white line doesn't even continue? That's because the road corroded off there at one time. This has had a straight up tower right to the Big Sky. There's so little room that they couldn't put the white line for the road. They couldn't paint it back on. You have to jog over. You hope you don't meet somebody. So I want everyone to consider that those are guardrails with no room for the lines to be written on the streets. That's where people are going to have to walk. You can't put a sidewalk. You can't put sidewalks here is a concern that I have. Road and conditions with snow and ice are impossible. We've had someone testify to the fact that it requires a 4-wheel drive to get to this facility with all the food that's going to have to be transported. There's no kitchen, there's no common dining area. I've worked in rehab facilities, I'm a speech pathologist. We had common hallways where people could ambulate. That's very important for healing. Anything, you have to be able to walk. These 29 exterior doors concern me with where these people are going to be able to walk to heal. It's very cold in the wintertime, and I know it was proposed that they walk around the outside like a track.
Ma'am, your time's up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandy Tackett, followed by Lisa Allison.
Good evening. My name is Brandy Tackett, and I'm a pharmacist, and I have 37 years experience in acute and post-acute healthcare settings, the most recent being the last 8 years in post-acute healthcare. I support the concept of a medical respite facility and understand the benefits of a well-structured facility and program and what it can provide to our patients, our community, and our health systems. I also understand the healthcare economics involved. An old hotel with 29 exterior-facing doors with no interior rehabilitation space, no kitchen resources, minimal supervision is not an adequate facility to house recuperating patients who average 31 to 45 days and up to 90 days in a program of this type. I am also a homeowner 0.1 miles from this proposed facility, and I have safety concerns for all those parties involved. I would like to note to the council that this is only one of 3 group homes in various stages of development in my neighborhood, one being a children's group home and the other being a drug and alcohol treatment facility. I'm fully supportive of these, and I am unaware of any mass opposition to either of these other 2. Of note, one of these facilities was very transparent in sharing with us what their plans were and had very open question and answer with the community. These facilities take into account the patients as well as the neighborhood safety. I'd like to outline some of my concerns, and I have emailed each of you references for all of my statistics. Violence can be expected. Medical respite has elements of homeless shelter and of a medical facility. Violent attacks against medical professionals have grown 63% between the years of 2011 and 2018. I've seen the amount of security in health systems increase significantly over my career. At the same time, Cornerstone has 25 to 30 calls per year documented to their facility, with 3/4 of them being violent. In conversations with a local police sergeant, he told me 25 to 30 per month, not year, was actually more common. Violence can be expected, and it may be violence on violence against patients, staff, visitors, or the neighbors. And we are very far from police resources. It's a fact that mental illness and substance abuse are common in this population. 37% experience one of the 2 of those situations. These individuals will be residing in a single motel room for up to 31 to 45 days or 90 days with minimal supervision and minimal support for their addictions and their concerns. Sex offenders will be screened and will not be admitted, and while I appreciate that, sex offenders are known for about 1/5 of all sex offenders are convicted for failure to register, not are failure to register, are convicted, meaning there are more who are never convicted. Again, this could be against other patients, staff, visitors, or neighbors. You may be familiar with an incident in our community in the last few years with an elderly female who was raped and murdered in her home. She lived next door to
Ma'am, your time's up.
Thank you.
Lisa Allison, followed by Dustin Eaglebowl.
Thank you, Mayor Solomon, members of City Council, for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Lisa Allison, and I'm the Executive Director of Cornerstone Rescue Mission. Cornerstone Rescue Mission has a unique opportunity to partner with the South Dakota Department of Health, Monument Health, and the Rapid City Fire Department mobile medics and community health workers to provide respite care for homeless individuals who are not sick enough to stay in the hospital, but are not healthy enough to go to the Mission, the Women and Children's Home, or another home that they may have, and that home may be underneath a bridge. All of our patients will come from the hospital and will be vetted by Monument Health, the mobile medics, and Cornerstone staff to ensure that they would be a good fit for our program. The program will primarily be a place to rest and heal as Cornerstone assists them to make plans for where they will live next. Case management by Cornerstone staff will be part of this program as well as trying to find them housing to move into. That's our core value of being a homeless mission, and they will either go to the Women and Children's Home or the mission or a place that we find for them when they discharge. The discharge date is set by the hospital. The community caseworkers will continue to be their case managers for their medical needs when they leave the respite center, so there was continuity of care. We have applied for a conditional use permit to provide this care to a very vulnerable population that the community may not see, but Monument Health, Mobile Medics, and the mission see daily and understand this huge need. We have purchased a building zoned commercial that neighbors have chosen to build around that is in a very quiet, healing neighborhood that is sparsely populated. There are 16 houses within a half a mile of our center, making it a peaceful refuge to heal. This will be our third facility in a residential neighborhood. We have not had any issues with any of our other facilities and have been accepted by the neighbors. None of those facilities have the controls that we will be building into this due to neighborhood concerns. We will have fencing all around, a coded gate, traffic will be minimal. We have a visitation policy, which we doubt will be used as we do not get visitors at our other facilities, but it will be in place and visitations will be monitored. Visitors cannot go into individual rooms, and as I stated in the conditional use permit, if we do have issues with it, we do have the authority to retract it. Again, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Cornerstone facilities are drug and alcohol-free. Security cameras and alarms will be placed around the facility, and there will be a minimum of 2 staff on duty. The program will start with 5 or 6 clients, and as we grow, we will add more staff. Patients will be checked on every 2 hours except for overnight so that they can sleep in peace. As a Christian ministry, we are excited to expand our care.
Ms. Allison, your time is up.
Thank you.
Final speaker request form is for Dustin Eaglebull. And then when we get to the item 35, those of you who are directly involved, the council may wish to ask questions if you want to stick around.
Good evening again. Sorry it took me so long. I actually needed permission to tell my friend's story. My friend actually ended up in a medical emergency and had to be flown to a hospital where he spent 3 months of his life out of work and not able to pay his bills. When he got out of the hospital, he had no home. The landlord had taken everything out of his house and thrown it out. That's how a lot of these patients end up. It's horrible. He always had a job. He always had a home to go to. I can't believe that actually ended up happening to him. He ended up at my doorstep where I ended up having to help him. Now he needs to go back to surgery because whenever he was on the street, he ended up getting his wounds infected. If he wasn't out of state right now, he'd actually be back and in the surgery he needs. And whenever he's done with that surgery, he has nowhere to go. As a taxpayer, as a person that always had a house and a job, he ended up homeless. This facility isn't just for homeless people that end up hurt. It's for the people that have a job, that have homes, and something bad happens where they don't have a home anymore. This is for them to go to afterwards. I am in favor of this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That will close the public comment for items 31 through 35. And we will move on to item 31, second reading of ordinance number 6638, an ordinance regarding supplemental appropriation number 6 for 2024. Motion by Roberts, second by Lehman to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 32, first reading of ordinance number 6637, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Advanced Design Engineering and Surveying, Inc. for Ham Living Trust, Dean R. Ham Living Trust, and Christopher Ham for rezoning requests from no use district to general commercial district for property generally described as being located north of Sheridan Lake Road between Muirfield Drive and Dunsmore Road. Motion by Maher, second by Roseland to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 33, a request by Advanced Design Engineering and Surveying, Inc. for Paul Harris of Properties West Realty, LLC, for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed Tract 3 of McFarland subdivision, generally described as being located at 2380 225th Street. The recommendation is to approve with stipulations. Motion by Sechrist to approve with stipulations with a second by Bieberdorf. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 34, approve the attached list of 2025 alcohol beverage license renewals, which have been vetted and approved by the Rapid City Police Department and the Rapid City Fire Department. Motion by Lehman, second by Ham to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 35, a request by Cornerstone Rescue Mission for a conditional use permit to allow a group home for respite care for property generally described as being located at 4080 Tower Road, and the staff recommendation was to approve with stipulations. The planning recommendation was to deny the conditional use permit. So just for the council's clarity here, if you approve this, you would uphold the denial. If you deny this, it overturns. Is that? Yeah. So what I'd like to do, that's technically how it is, but how about this? If you are for it at this location, you say yes, and if you are against it at this location, you say no. Does that work? Even though technically, city attorney, as long as I'm clear on that, I'm gonna. Yes. So if you vote yes, you are voting for. You are allowing this conditional use permit at this location. If you vote no, you are not. Even though, if I was to make you do it the other way, it'd be kind of confusing. Yes is yes, and your no is no. Okay. Jesse Ham.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve as written with stipulations and additional stipulation that this site at 4080 Tower Road be a temporary use for this purpose and move this service to the One Heart campus within 15 months. And I'd like to retain the floor just for a moment.
Second. Okay, so let me restate the motion.
Go ahead.
You are approving this item with stipulations, with an additional stipulation that is a temporary use, did you say for 15 months?
Correct, 15 months.
And at which point you're trying to move it into another location?
Move to the One Heart campus.
All right, sorry. Quite a bit there, and you had a second by Lehman, and you have the floor.
Okay, a lot of really good content in the comments. I just would encourage all of those who, a lot of highly kind of charged. This is a pretty highly charged day in general. I just encourage those who are speaking on behalf or against this to have the same amount of vigor when things work out well, and I have a lot of confidence that they will. For people in particular like Councilman Bieberdorf and Dr. Harlow, who didn't speak today, but I know has, both these gentlemen have worked hard in the background for probably better part of a decade on this process. So I'm a firm believer that this needs to be done, and I'm also a firm believer that there's some good points made with regard to the location, hence this motion. Thank you.
Okay. So that's the motion on the floor. If anyone wants to speak on that or make a substitute motion, we'll go to Councilor Bieberdorf.
Yeah, I would speak against that motion. I don't think it's fair to put Cornerstone in that position to get all ramped up for 15 months and then make them go somewhere else. If this council decides to move it in that time period, I think we can come back and revisit it, but put them in that position to it's a no-go for them. That voting for that is a no vote. I don't think they're going to ramp something up for 15 months with resources and go that route. And there's just such a huge opportunity cost here, and there's going to be a huge lost opportunity cost if this council can't take action tonight to get Monument, to get Cornerstone, to get the PD, to get fire, to get our community health workers, to get everything to this point. To your point, Mr. Ham, has been decades or a decade of work with it. So I would make a substitute motion that we approve 35. If I get a second, I return.
Well, we can't take the substitute because you've spoken, so if somebody else wants to do it, then you can second it, or you can chime back in and make that motion. We'll go to Councilor Sechrist.
I move to make a substitute motion that we approve this requested plan development
With stipulations?
with stipulations.
Okay.
And if I could retain the floor.
All right, we got a motion by Sechrist, second by Bieberdorf. You have the floor.
Thank you. It's getting a little late in the hour for me, so I apologize. I am in support of Cornerstone Mission and the work that's happening in the community and the efforts that have gone into this. I've been on site and walked the perimeter twice. I have met with representatives from the mission, spoken to the applicant, excuse me, I guess that is the mission, the PD, the neighbors. I've taken many phone calls. I've read every single email. I likely have not responded to your emails, but I have read them all. I greatly appreciate the citizen concerns that have been brought forward. I've listened to the public comments. I listened to them at the Planning Commission meeting as well. They are important to me. I want you to know that there are some concerns I feel that are out of context. I think that this location in particular is actually quite a serene location and would allow for a level of inability for some of those friends or outside influences to access the individuals that might be in need of recovery. This is not a temporary location, nor is it ever going to be. It's not a mission or a day center. It is a respite care facility. We're anticipating 2 weeks' time spent there. It could be longer depending on the physician's orders. I live in a home that was built in 1957 in Southeast Rapid City. I have asbestos flooring in my basement, and my bathroom doorway is 32 inches wide. And if I were to be discharged from the hospital today, I would be going to my home and I would be making do with what I had at home. And just the reality is that not all of us have an ideal situation. And I think that this maybe isn't perfect, that maybe this isn't a temporary solution, right? We have long-term needs in this community. We have a lot of needs in this community, but for right now, I will be in support of making this work and supporting the mission and the police department, the fire department, the Department of Health, all the folks that are part of this in making this project happen. I would encourage everyone to go down to the mission and take a tour and just find out about the programming and seriously the amount of support that's offered to the individuals utilizing the services. It really was a huge eye-opener for me, understanding the support that they're giving to people, the case management, and moving into the next steps of a person's life. And this is really a critical point when a person maybe hits rock bottom or maybe doesn't have somewhere else to go, that they can be intervened and hopefully moved into the next place in their life. With that, I think I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see no one in the queue, so we will go to, never mind, Councilor Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor.
At the last minute.
May I direct a question to the city attorney?
Absolutely.
Joel, we heard the discussion from Mr. Nas about this not being proper appeal at this time procedurally, and also that it should be by writ of certiorari, and also that it would take a 2/3 vote to overcome the ruling of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I just wondered if you could shed some light on those two issues.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I have looked at this, and Kinsley Groot in my office has also looked at it, since she does the primary support of the planning department. I'll be honest, the language in 11.425.1 isn't ideal, but if you look at it, I think where the confusion comes in is state law allows the city to decide who the approving authority on a conditional use permit is. It also permissively allows that zoning board of adjustment hear conditional use permits, but it doesn't require it. This statute is in with the zoning board of adjustment. However, when I look at the session law in which it was created, it is entitled "An Act to Revise the Process by which Courts Consider Appeals of Decisions Regarding Conditional Use Requests." So to me, when you look at this, but again, looking at it in light of this discussion, I would probably personally word it differently. It seems pretty clear to me the intent of the legislature is that to harmonize appeals from the approving authority to a court to make it a writ of certiorari in the standard that applies to writ of certioraries. Just like if it had gone, the conditional use request had gone to the zoning board of adjustment. I would also note that any decision of the zoning board of adjustment, the reason for the 2/3 is that any decision of the zoning board of adjustment requires a 2/3 vote in favor of it. However, again, the statute also allows cities to establish their own approving authority. One of the reasons to not use the zoning board of adjustment for approval of conditional uses is you don't want to require a 2/3 majority vote. The city, for longer than I have been with the city, so over 20 years, I would guess Vicky probably maybe has a better idea, has established that the approving authority is the planning commission unless it's appealed, and if it is appealed, then the city council is the approving authority. So I believe this statute, although a judge could certainly, if the landowners were to challenge it, a judge could certainly disagree with me. I believe that if you were to approve this or deny it, and the party that was on the opposite side wanted to appeal it to the circuit court, that this statute establishes it would be via writ of certiorari. I would also note that, again, one of the reasons to structure it the way we have it structured is that an appeal to a circuit court via writ of certiorari is essentially no appeal at all, because the standard is so high to overturn the decision. Essentially, you could never really overturn a decision. So again, I think that's part of the reason the state law allows you to choose what the approving authority is and somewhat what the process is, which we've again done by adopting an ordinance that doesn't make the zoning board of adjustment the appeals board.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilor Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask Joel Landine a question, since he's thoroughly got me confused over that, what he just said?
Absolutely.
So, Joel, I've been on this council for a couple of years now, and I can remember a few times that we had conditional use permits that went to the courts. How many have we had that have went to the courts that we have actually, as a city, won?
I couldn't answer that. I don't even know, because frankly, when it gets appealed, I'm more familiar with the decisions, and we haven't had one for a long time where the zoning board of adjustment was appealed via writ of certiorari. And I would say most of those we've won, because the discretion, it's an abuse of discretion standard, so basically the appellant can hardly ever meet it.
So, going back, just to not going to certiorari, just going to the courts, okay? Because I can remember the last one in 2017 that we lost, and then I can remember one in 2014, I believe, that we lost. I can remember another one that we didn't technically lose because we actually negotiated outside of court. So my question is, you know, I'm concerned about this going to the courts. That's my concern on this. And no offense, Joel, but I'm going to just talk now for a minute. I've seen, a few of these over the years that have went to the courts, and so far I haven't seen much that good outcome towards the city when they do go to the courts. So I'm going to vote against this. Basically because of that concern. I think if it goes to the court system, who knows what's going to happen. But I do have one other concern, and that is, and no offense, Mr. Bieberdorf, but you've been working on this for 10 years. I sat on this council, and I've sat on this council for a long time, and I've worked on a lot of things in my personal life. And that includes committees that I've sat on. And if I had that much time into something, I would probably abstain, and that's just my opinion. And the state of South Dakota puts that in your lap of whether or not you should abstain for something, and if you don't believe you should, good. I agree with, you have to do what you have to do. But, again, it just bothers me, and I wanted to get that off of my chest. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Stroman.
Can I just ask Mr. Keene a question?
Absolutely.
Kevin, would you? So
if he's open to it. Yeah.
Sure.
So Kevin, you're on the.
I only got through about this much of 3 minutes goes really fast.
Well, I don't want you to read your deal. But you're on the County Planning and Zoning Commission, correct?
Yes.
And when.
I'm on the Planning Commission.
Okay. And so when the Planning Commission at the county level is faced with a CUP, are those automatically reviewed in 12 months after they're granted?
There is a time frame. I can't specifically say it's 12 months. We have a review process.
Okay. And so that you kind of basically, if there's any concerns that's raised
Exactly.
during that time.
It's typically a 12-month period that they're going to, but sometimes they'll be 2 years, depending on the project, that they would have, again, a 12-month review or a 2-year review, or sometimes there may even be a 3-year review.
Okay. Thank you. Then real quick, one for Director Fisher.
Absolutely.
Vicki, I noticed, I've looked at what your review is from your department, but do we have a similar situation with review, or is that one of the stipulations that you and your staff had proposed for this CUP?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
if I
ma'am.
might, I used to be a county planner decades ago, and so there is a provision in the county that a conditional use permit be automatically reviewed, and depending upon the use, that will have a specific time frame to it. Rapid City has a provision that says these can be reviewed upon complaint. And as a part of that review, the Planning Commission then would have the authority to revoke that conditional use permit. So there is a stipulation that's added as it was presented to the Planning Commission that incorporates that language that says if the applicant fails to maintain the standards set forth in their operational plan and as required by approval of this conditional use permit, then a revocation of the conditional use permit application shall be initiated, and that would be brought forward pursuant to 1754 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. So again, while anyone can do that, we wanted to bring that forward. If you might, just give me a little bit more of your time. I did work with Cornerstone on one of their other locations, the women's shelter on 5th Street. And similarly, we had many residential property owners show up. There was a lot of great comments, just like tonight, those in support of the use but concerned about what it was going to be. So in that case, we put an automatic review in there of 6 months. So the Planning Commission approved the use, and then in 6 months they came back and they held another public hearing to see if there were perceived concerns or real concerns. And that is something that you could do tonight as well if you decide to go forward. The revocation stipulation that's in the staff report that was presented to Planning Commission, that's there for any CUP. We just added it for emphasis on this one.
Thank you. I yield.
Okay. Pat Roseland.
Thank you, Mayor. May I ask Joel a question, please?
Sure.
Joel, could you respond to Councilman Roberts' question concerning Councilman Beaverdorf?
Well, I think he's right. You know, really the legal conflict is that there's a pecuniary interest or a financial interest. So if there's no financial interest, wouldn't necessarily qualify, but ultimately it is up to the council member to decide whether or not they have a conflict of interest. I will say state law also says that if someone votes and it's later determined they have a conflict of interest, the result is that their vote is negated. The council, there is a process, and I would have to pull it up and look at it, but we've never used it, where the city council can determine that someone has a conflict of interest and vote on it. If that, but otherwise, I think Alderman Roberts is correct that it's up to the individual alderman to determine whether they have a conflict.
Okay, so the motion on the floor, as it stands, is to approve with the stipulations. We will go to a roll call vote. So if you vote, just as a reminder, if you vote yes, you're going to vote yes to approve this with stipulations, or you're going to vote no to deny it with stipulations.
Seacrest? Yes. Bieberdorf? Yes. Ham? Yes. Evans? Yes. Roseland?
Yes.
Lehman? Yes. Maher?
No.
Roberts?
No.
Stroman?
No.
CUP passes 6-3.
6-3, okay. Thank you, everyone. A lot of good discussion on this. We will move on to consent public hearing items 36 through 37. Would the council wish to vote on the remaining consent items or pull for separation? Motion by Stroman and a second by Roseland to approve items 36 and 37. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to the end of the consent public hearing calendar, and we will move on to the non-consent public hearing items. Item 38, approve resolution 2024-092, adopting a 5-year plan of projects and programs to be funded from the vision account of the City of Rapid City's Capital Improvement and Vision Fund, and establishing the allocation of funds between the funding priorities included in the plan. Councilor Evans.
As I stated 2 weeks ago, and in every other discussion concerning this, until we know the outcome of tomorrow's vote, I don't think we should even be talking about spending money we may need for some other purposes. So I will oppose this. Thank you.
Okay. And as a reminder, go ahead, Councilor Seacrest.
Thank you, Mayor. I just was going to ask you a quick point of clarification.
Sure.
in the materials as they've been presented. Can you just confirm that this is really just establishing the plan, and any action from here will be brought forward with an additional resolution to a public hearing, including every single category that's been identified? Is that correct?
Yes, and I'll probably have Joel Landine weigh in, but obviously we had this, the last meeting was a public hearing. This is a public hearing. That what this does is set the dollar amounts, but the individual plans for those, we will consider those separately because of the nature of it. So you're right, you're not determining projects today to build, but you are you're kind of setting the budget for it by category. But if you'd like, I could have Joel Landine weigh in. He kind of devised this up a little bit. I think he could speak to it.
Well, and the reason why I pose this question is just that I think it's more explanatory with the citizens' projects, for example, versus the comprehensive plan priority items. And so I just still have a lot of questions in that regard, and how these will be brought forward and approved through council for consideration, and what the public input for those look like. And was just hoping to have a little clarification on that.
Yeah, thank you. Each category will have their own resolution. And that was Joel's recommendation. And Joel, I'll give you some opportunity to weigh in on this if I missed anything.
Thank you, Mayor. We tried to make it a more digestible chunk. So, the mayor made an overall presentation of categories for funding that I know he had talked to many of you about, and how much money to allocate to that. This resolution implements that piece of it. As the mayor said, the process for soliciting and identifying projects for each of the areas will be through a separate resolution. And frankly, I think some of the areas, there's some general consensus on what the process should be, and we would bring those forward sooner. I think there's some of the areas where maybe it requires some more input and discussion, and those might take longer. So the benefit of breaking it up is that it doesn't hold up certain parts of the plan that there's maybe consensus on. We can move forward on those. The parts there isn't consensus on, it gives you more time to look at. And then if we brought it forward all in one resolution, I could see where maybe it would delay the process because there was some disagreement about maybe you agreed on 3 or 4 of the processes for the subsections, but not on the 5th one, and it would hold up all 4 or 5 of them. Whereas if you do them each individually, then it gives you more input into each plan, and it doesn't slow down the other components of it because of issues on one.
Okay. Ms. Seacrest?
Thank you for that clarification, Joel. I will yield. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Roberts?
Yes, I want to make a motion to move this to the next council meeting, and I want to hold the floor if I can get a second.
Okay. We got a motion by Roberts, second by Seacrest to continue to the next council meeting.
So my question is, in these different layers, and I don't know if this is to Joel or to the mayor or whoever, if we vote on this in 2 weeks, is that locked in stone, or can we move some of that money into one of the other line items, or is...
Go to City Attorney Joel Landine. All right, so I thought.
Thank you, Mayor. You have the ability to amend the plan in the future, but it would, again, need to occur at a public hearing. So if you want to, I guess I would say at this point, if you want to consider moving money between line items or discussing the line items, I think, we should have that discussion now. That doesn't mean that if you decide something now and then 6 months or 9 months from now, you want to do something slightly different or move money between line items based on projects coming in. You do have the ability to amend that project or amend the plan.
Thank you.
All right, so Councilor Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm going to vote in favor of handling this at the next meeting. I feel like I'm not really sure what I'm voting on, and I want some more clarification. I don't think that's going to be too much time to mess anything up. And I just don't want to make a decision like this. We've been here for almost, 3.5 hours, and I'd just rather have this in 2 weeks.
Fair enough.
Thanks.
All right. So the motion is to continue this to the next city council meeting. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, we'll go on to the bill list, and with that, we'll go to Finance Director Daniel Ainsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The bills for tonight total $12,346,627.13.
Looking for a motion. Motion by Seacrest, second by Roberts to approve the bill list. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Got a motion by Roseland, second by Maher to adjourn. All in favor? All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.